Damn it. Why is this happening? The protagonist is desperate. He never expected that the consequences of provoking Sumo would be so serious. There were not many villains he provoked before. For example, when Gerald, whom Sumo had met, came here, he provoked him with his eyes. Gerald had nothing to do with him, and was very depressed. Gerald had just succeeded the Marquis. Sumo's identity is only an earl. Don't talk about the Marquis, as long as he doesn't make other mistakes. Even the few Duke-level villains come here, and there is nothing they can do about him. But here is an earl in the Sumo district, but he overturned. What to do? See if they can save me. The protagonist was in a hurry. Thinking of this, he quickly opened the protagonist panel, ready to ask other protagonists for help. Just as he was about to operate, he was hit hard again, and as soon as his eyes darkened, he passed out. Drag him down, don't let him wake up, Judge Chris said coldly. This is not going to give the protagonist any opportunity to appeal, and give this matter directly. The two temple knights dragged the unconscious protagonist into the carriage and headed for the dungeon. The movement here has already attracted the attention of many people. There is the largest church in the Crescent Kingdom, and many people come to pray every day. However, these people did not have the opportunity to approach, and could only watch from a distance, not knowing what happened. Tang was finished. When the protagonist was dragged away, in the distance, a person hiding in the crowd narrowed his eyes. This man is also the protagonist. He didn't see the whole thing, only saw the scene where the protagonist who provoked Sumo was knocked out and dragged away. They must be notified of the news. The protagonist quickly sent the message to a group. In the New Moon capital, not only the villains are in a group, but the protagonists are also in a group. There are a lot of people in this group, there are more than 20 people. There are also some protagonists on their way to the capital. What? Tang Hua was taken away by the people of the referee. What happened? I didn't see the front, but there is a villain there, and that villain should be the Earl of Moshi Land. Earl of Moshi Territory. A duke is at the headquarters of the Holy See, and there is no way to take Tang Hua. How did Earl of Moshi Territory do it? Is Tang Hua provoking the other party? I have persuaded him to be a little more aggressive in the early stage, but he doesn't listen. Even if you provoke an earl, it's nothing, right? Why did you call the court? As the news appeared in the protagonist group, the group became lively in an instant. The protagonists are all out. Tang Hua has become a temple knight, and as a result, in the Holy See's territory, he was knocked unconscious by the people of the Inquisition and dragged down. The point is, there's also a villain in there. This matter, no matter how you look at it, has something to do with the villain. Naturally, these protagonists who are hidden in the capital are concerned. What they care about is not Tang Hua's life or death, but the process of this matter. The current capital is the safest place for them. The Holy See is the safest place. These few days, even the Duke-level silver villains have no way to deal with them. However, a protagonist has overturned. Not knowing what was going on, they were very uneasy. By the way, Queen Crescent Moon is also here. She and the Earl of Moshi Land seem to have come to the Holy See together. At this time, the protagonist of the scene saw the Queen of the Crescent Moon who was back on the carriage. The Queen of the New Moon is also there. The Queen of the New Moon is the Holy Maiden of God, I understand. In the protagonist group, a protagonist said. Most of the counts of Mo Shi Ling killed Tang Hua with a knife. The protagonist continued. I feel the same way. The Earl of the Blackstone Territory mostly used the Queen of the New Moon. However, his relationship with the Queen may not be ordinary. I'm going. You say that. Why am I a little nervous? I just joined the Palace Guard. Don't worry, Queen Crescent Moon should just be used. Don't forget that she is a saint. Under the shroud of divine light, she is naturally insulated from love. Anyway, this Earl of the Blackstone Country is probably a formidable enemy. Everyone, be careful these days and don't make any mistakes.
A euro e a euro a euro. In the group, the protagonists express their opinions.
This incident has had a big impact on these protagonists, letting them know that even in the Holy See, it is not 100% safe. Give the villains a chance, and they'll roll over too. However, since they don't know the relationship between the Queen of the Crescent Moon and Sumo, there are not many protagonists who are too worried, although they are a little uneasy. In their opinion, the main thing is that the protagonist named Tang Hua was too arrogant. This guy's favorite thing to do is to provoke villains. The Earl of the Blackstone Territory, I feel that his level of difficulty is no less than that of the villains of the Duke family. Well, a lot of people in the capital have been talking about him in the past 2 days. When everyone encounters him, they should be very careful. Behind the cathedral, in another tall building. In a wide hall, a pure white holy light fell down and fell on Sumo's body. Cover Sumo completely. This is a routine inspection by the Holy See. All those who participate in the blessing ceremony are subject to inspection. In fact, there are still many steps to check, however, with the guarantee of the Queen of the Crescent Moon, Sumo only needs to go through the last step. Under the shroud of holy light, if Sumo has the slightest bit of a devilish breath on his body, he will be discovered. Even if a person signed a contract with a demon or something, it would be detected. The power of the contract is invisible, but as long as the contract is signed, there is always a trace. At the same time as the holy light shrouded, a special magic circle moved around Sumo. In the magic circle, there is a sacred breath. Sumo felt that this magic circle could even examine the soul. Of course, not to check what other people are thinking, but to check the purity or piety of the soul. Count. Please don't do any resistance, you need to do the last check. A bishop's voice sounded. Sumo made a hum without making any resistance. A divine breath enveloped him. Sumo felt that his soul was being scanned. However, the scans of the protagonist and the villain at the beginning of the game did not detect Sumo's identity as a demon. Even if this magic circle might have been bestowed by the goddess of the new moon, to him, it was nothing short of a pediatrician. What? At this time, there was a soft whistle. Immediately afterwards, a cardinal stood up at the control panel of the magic circle. Why is his soul purity so high? The cardinal looked at Sumo with some surprise on his face. Bishop Phelan, what's wrong? The Queen of the Crescent Moon walked over. When she saw the numbers on the magic disc, surprise appeared on her pretty face. Because, the number displayed above is impressively higher than when she was testing. She is the Virgin of the New Moon Goddess. The saint, that is, the most devout person to the saint, in the entire Holy See, no one has a purer soul than her. Now. Unexpectedly. Sure enough, does it work? In the magic circle, Sumo was basically determined when he heard the whisper. His soul purity, after being measured, is indeed very high. This is because, after Sumo's succubus lineage evolved to a certain stage, it also began to evolve his soul. For the Holy See, the purity of the soul is, to a certain extent, equivalent to the degree of piety. Like the Queen of the Crescent Moon, the purity of the soul tested by the Holy See of the Crescent Moon is very high. But if she goes to the Holy See of other gods, it will naturally fail. Sumo's soul is pure and pure. This is the effect brought about by the evolution of the succubus bloodline to a very high stage. His bloodline stage is already extremely high. However, blood is not the same as strength. The higher the bloodline, the faster the growth and the higher the growth limit. Due to the high pedigree, Sumo is also growing faster and faster. Even if there is no other gold finger, his strength on the demon god is constantly rising. Sumo's succubus bloodline is no match for many powerful innate demon bloodlines. In the course of evolution, there have been other changes. Just like the purity of his soul, the current Sumo is going to be tested by the Holy See of a celestial god, and the purity of the soul will be very high. Of course, a person with a high degree of soul purity suddenly appears, and he will definitely be suspected. If there is no identity and status, it will even be controlled and investigated by the Holy See. That's why Sumo has been in the New Moon Kingdom for such a long time. With the foreshadowing, it comes naturally. Lord Phelan, could there be a problem with the magic circle? At the magic disc, another bishop asked. Impossible. This is a sacred magic circle given by the goddess, and there is no possibility of a problem. Cardinal Road. Then how to deal with this matter? The bishop asked. Pray first and see what God means, as for the Earl of the Black Stone. When the cardinal said this, he subconsciously looked at the Queen of the Crescent Moon. Soul purity is so high. If it is someone else, it must be placed in the Holy See first, and then do various background checks. The world of the gods has special rules of operation. These laws are reinforced by the gods in the heavens, and the gods cannot easily take action in the world of the gods. This is to avoid bringing disaster to ordinary people in the world of gods. The demon gods in the abyss, once descended to the world of gods, will also be severely suppressed. The gods of the heavens will not come easily. If it is a general crisis, the God of the heavens can completely bestow power on the Holy Son or Holy Daughter in the Holy See. The higher the purity of the soul, the easier and easier it will be to communicate with God. It also means that it can carry more power from God. If Sumo is an ordinary person, after being investigated and there are no problems, he will be cultivated by the Holy See. It is even possible to make Sumo the new sun if the crescent moon goddess intends. However, Sumo is not an ordinary person, he is the famous Earl of Moshi Land. At the same time, the relationship with the Queen of the New Moon is not ordinary. So, the Cardinal wants to see what the Queen of the Crescent means. The Queen of the New Moon glanced at Sumo and said, "Since there are no problems with the inspection, then I will take him away first, and then act according to the goddess when she has something to do with it." The Cardinal pondered for a while, and said, "Okay, then it's up to the saint." After finishing speaking, he closed the sacred magic circle through the magic disc in his hand. "Let's go." The Queen of the Crescent Moon came to Sumo and said, "Queen, what happened?" Sumo pretended not to know and asked. The Queen of the New Moon hesitated for a while, but still told Sumo, "There are no problems with the inspection, you can participate in the blessing ceremony, but there is an accident." Sumo looked at her. The Queen of the New Moon said, "It has been detected that your soul purity is very high, higher than mine. If the goddess personally confirms that there is no problem, the goddess may choose you to be the holy child." When the Queen of the New Moon said these words, she was actually quite worried. Because, once Sumo is chosen as the holy son, that is, he will never marry. You don't have to worry too much. The goddess has never established a holy child. I guess she should give you more blessings. The Queen of the New Moon said again. She was clearly worried, but she made Sumo not worry. Sumo said, "Oh, holy son. That's fine." Hearing Sumo's words, Queen Crescent Moon's nervous heart suddenly relaxed. "Well, what is the oracle of the goddess? I will tell you as soon as possible. There is a side hall in the palace. You can live there for the past few days. In this way, I can also reassure the Holy See." The Queen of the Crescent Moon looked at Sumo eagerly and said, "It is good." Sumo agreed. The Queen of the Crescent Moon was happier. "Lord Count, this person will be handed over to you." In the dungeon of the Inquisition, the protagonist, who was still in a coma, was handed over to Sumo. The female officer Arya brought by Sumo put the protagonist in a space bag that could hold people. Sumo glanced at the Inquisition's dungeon. According to the prompt on the villain panel, there should also be a protagonist. After reaching the silver level villain, once the distance with the protagonist is too close, the specific distance will be displayed. He didn't say much and left here with someone. The man was taken away by the Earl of the Blackstone Land. Unfortunately, the presiding judge's magic is so powerful that I can't wake him up. After Sumo left, in the dungeon, a man in a black robe said among the protagonists. He is the protagonist in the dungeon of the Inquisition. In the dungeon, he was a small boss, but he couldn't speak. After the protagonist is taken into the dungeon, the guy tries to wake him up and figure out how he got smothered by Sumo. But he apparently failed. "Damn it, the time is too short, I'd better continue to sign here." The referee is relatively independent from the Holy See, and he doesn't even want to infiltrate it. The protagonist thought. His gold finger is a sign-in system, so he plans to hide here all the time and sign in silently to become stronger. It's just that the time is too short, his gold finger level is limited, and his strength is not particularly strong. What? One of the protagonists of the Knights Templar Reserve was taken away by the Earl of the Blackstone Land. In a separate mansion in the royal capital, Gerald's voice sounded. In the royal capital, the protagonist and villain are basically in a clear state. Although Gerald and the others cannot rashly attack the protagonist, there must be surveillance. They also have a lot of eyeliner in the capital. What happened at the headquarters of the Holy See, because it happened in the square, was quickly reported by their eyeliner. This news shocked Gerald all of a sudden. On the other side, several other Duke-level villains also quickly received the news. Not long after, these villains who lived relatively close gathered together. Several villains were a little surprised. There is the headquarters of the Holy See. Sumo can actually be there and get a protagonist. As soon as they came, they did what they couldn't do for days. How not to surprise them? "Have you seen your eyeliner clearly? How did the Earl of Moshi Land get the protagonist?" asked a Duke heir. The villains present shook their heads. Their eyeliner is not everything. That is, some commoners disguised as going to church to pray. I can just watch the movement near the church. The core thing, their eyeliner can't touch at all. At that time, their eyes were only seen from a distance, and they were unable to approach, because the guard knights brought by the Queen of the New Moon prevented them from approaching. According to my eyeliner report, the Queen of the Crescent Moon is also there, so I guess that the Earl of the Blackstone territory may have used the Queen of the Crescent Moon to kill people with a knife. Another Duke heir Dao. There is a possibility that the Queen of the New Moon is a saint of God, and her power in the Holy See is not small. Well, looking at it this way, the relationship between the Earl of Moshi Land and the Queen of the New Moon should be better. The main villains in these villain alliances exchanged their information. Their guesses were similar to the protagonists in the capital, and they all felt that Sumo was likely to kill with a knife. Naturally, they could not have imagined that the fact that they could get the protagonist so quickly was actually because Queen Crescent played well in order to protect Sumo. I don't even know that the relationship between the Queen of the Crescent Moon and Sumo is already good enough. The Queen is wholeheartedly thinking about marrying Sumo after stepping down as a saint. Even so, these villains are still impressed by Sumo. I'll just say that this Earl of the Inkstone territory is not easy. Gerald, try it out and see if you can pull it in. We'll do it in a few days. Every extra strength is a point. Headed by the Duke Air Dao. It doesn't matter if I can't pull it in. I feel that there is always something wrong with the Earl of the Blackstone Land. Don't let him know our plan. Well, one more person means one more strength, but one more person to share the benefits. Several other Duke heirs spoke up. Sumo guessed right, and they really brewed a wave of attacks against the protagonist. And in their attitude towards Sumo, they obviously have some differences. The Holy See actually handed Tang Hua over to the Earl of Moshi Land. What are you doing? At this time, in the palace, the two guards of the palace guards were talking in a low voice. The palace is divided into inner palace and outer palace. The outer palace is where the king handles political affairs, meets officials and nobles, or receives foreign guests. The inner palace is the residence of the king. Generally speaking, whether it is a male king or a female king, in the inner palace, they like to use female guards. That is, female knights or magicians are stationed. The outer palace is not so particular, mostly male guards. It is not so simple to join the palace guard, and the background review is very strict. Although the identities of these two guards after passing through are general, their backgrounds are innocent. Therefore, after becoming stronger through Goldfinger, they signed up as soon as possible. After passing the assessment, they successfully joined the palace guards with their strength. Of course, they can only be considered peripheral, and their status is not high. The status in the palace guard is somewhat similar to that of a chores. But even if they were doing errands, it was difficult for the villains who were nobles to move them. After knowing that the Holy See handed the protagonist to Sumo, the two guards were a little puzzled. At the same time, there is some vague unease. Hey, I said, Li Fei, if the Queen has a good relationship with the Earl of Moshi Land, are we in danger here? One protagonist asks the other. Don't worry, no matter how good the relationship can be, the Queen of the New Moon is not stupid, and the Earl of Moshi territory uses such an obvious use. Once she reacts afterwards, she will definitely have an opinion on the Earl of Moshi territory. The other protagonist consoled. That's right, the Earl of Moshiling still can't get involved in the affairs of the palace. We don't go out these days and don't give him a chance. The previous protagonist said. Although the two protagonists were a little uneasy, they still decided to stay in the palace. Rely on their Goldfinger first, and then get stronger. Stand up, the Queen's car will be here soon. At this time, the voice of a captain of guards sounded. The two protagonists quickly stood up straight and stopped chatting. Soon, at the gate of the palace, Queen Crescent's carriage slowly drove in. After the Queen Crescent's carriage drove in, another carriage followed immediately behind. After driving in, Queen Crescent's carriage stopped. Kathy. The faint voice of the Queen of the New Moon sounded. Your Majesty, please order. Kathy rode. Send an extra team of guards to be responsible for the safety of the Earl of Moshi Land at night. The Queen of the New Moon said. Yes, Your Majesty. Kathy takes the lead. Captain Yimo, take your people with me. Soon, Kathy had an arrangement. In the team of guards she called, the two protagonists happened to be here. The two protagonists don't know what tasks they have at this time. The two carriages went forward along the avenue of the palace. Several guards followed behind. Finally, to a palace. Sir, here we are. The female officer Alia said. After entering the palace, Sumo brought only a few people, including the female officer Arya. Arya lifts the curtain for Sumo. Sumo got out of the carriage. The Queen of the Crescent Moon also got off the carriage. For the past few days, you should live here. This is the token. You can enter and leave the palace at will. She handed a token to Sumo. Sumo took the token. Then I'll go back. If there is any news, I will send someone to inform you. The Queen of the Crescent Moon gave Sumo a sweet smile and got back on the carriage again. She still has a lot to deal with. What's the matter? How did he appear in the palace? At this moment, when a protagonist saw Sumo, he immediately felt a little bad. The two looked at each other. Don't worry too much. Isn't it normal for nobles to visit the king in the palace? The two chatted quietly through the protagonist panel. At this time, Queen Crescent's carriage had already left. However, their team of guards did not leave with them. The two protagonists were puzzled. Then he saw that Sumo looked in their direction lightly. He found us. So what if he finds out? Does he dare to attack in public? Learn a lesson, don't be provocative. The two protagonists are not too worried. But he did not provoke Sumo with his eyes and expressions like the protagonist of the Holy See headquarters. Sure enough, Sumo retracted his gaze. Then, Sumo walked towards the palace, and soon, disappeared into the palace. The two protagonists breathed a sigh of relief. Everyone cheer up. The Earl of Moshiland is the Queen's guest. If something goes wrong, it will be difficult for us. After Sumo entered the palace, the captain of the escort said loudly. What, he wants to live here? The two protagonists were suddenly surprised. Captain Yimo, are we going to stay here forever? The two protagonists found the captain of the guard and asked. Of course, we are responsible for protecting the safety of the Earl of Moshi territory. If the Earl of Moshi territory is dispatched, he has to take the order as soon as possible, you know? Captain Imo said in a stern voice. Got it, Captain. The two protagonists stared at each other. They never thought that Sumo, a villain, lived in the palace. It has been a long-standing rule not to keep guests in the palace. But now, Sumo has become a special case. Although this is only the outer palace, it also proves that Sumo has an unusual relationship with Queen Crescent Moon. That's all. Their two weak protagonists were actually sent to guard Sumo's safety. This FCK. Life is really impermanent. The large intestine wraps the small intestine. It's quite like sending two little sheep to the wolf, and letting these two sheep be responsible for protecting the wolf. What should we do? He will probably take the opportunity to attack and kill us. A protagonist panicked. The other protagonist was calm before, but now panics. Talent. In a room in the palace, Sumo looked at the unconscious protagonist and whispered. After entering the palace, Sumo used a magic disc he carried with him to set up a small magic circle in his room. The range of this magic circle is not large, it is limited to Sumo's room. However, the level is very high, and it has reached the forbidden spell level. As for more advanced magic circles, it is difficult to arrange them in a short period of time because light passes through the magic disc. Especially, when Sumo can't use his demon power. Such a magic circle can play a role in covering up movement. As long as Sumo doesn't make too much noise in the room, there shouldn't be any problem. Just now, he already knew the gold finger of the protagonist through his succubus eyes. The gold finger owned by the protagonist is not a system, nor is it a ring grandpa. But talent. The protagonist is endowed with a super talent. Bronze level divine talent. Once the protagonist cultivates the power related to the divine power, the harvest will increase exponentially. No wonder, this guy entered the Temple Knights and made such rapid progress. After knowing the gold finger of the protagonist, the next step is the issue of deprivation. It is much less difficult for a silver-level villain to deprive a bronze-level gold finger. Within 3 minutes of killing the protagonist, you can deprive this bronze-level divine talent by spending 100 villain points. After he figured it out, Sumo's finger moved, the flame rushed out, and the protagonist was instantly killed. You kill a bronze-level protagonist and get 100 villain value and 10 luck value. On the villain panel, the prompt comes out. After becoming a silver-level villain, killing the protagonist can also get a very small amount of luck. However, Sumo's hand moved again, grabbing some luck again. However, this time, since he couldn't shoot unscrupulously, the luck of grabbing was much less. Even if there is a magic circle to cover it, in the capital, you have to be careful. In fact, in the capital, even a large magic circle could not be deployed. The magic circle in the entire capital is a hole, and when a slightly larger magic circle is deployed, it will be noticed. It's not a problem if Sumo only has a small one in his room. It's just a matter of grabbing less luck. Sumo didn't care. Do you consume 100 villain points to get this protagonist talent? The prompt appears again. Yes. Sumo chose yes. You have successfully acquired the bronze-level divine talent. A prompt appears. This talent was collected by Sumo. After solving the protagonist and gaining his talent again, Sumo withdrew the magic circle and silently used what was exchanged in the Krypton gold system. The two guys outside, Sumo wasn't ready to move today. At this time, outside the palace, the two protagonists did not dare to leave the other guards, for fear that Sumo would suddenly come out and kill them. Don't worry too much, there are no excuses, and he won't shoot. Let's do our own thing and don't give him excuses. A protagonist consoled. Those guys in the group told us not to run away, they definitely wanted us to test out the relationship between the Earl of the Blackstone Land and the Queen of the New Moon. The other protagonist said. The two chatted through the protagonist panel, and the surrounding guards naturally did not notice. It's unrealistic for us to escape now. There are too many people staring at us. Once we leave the capital, it's too easy for other villains to kill us outside the capital. The two protagonists console each other. It is not so easy for them to escape. Once they are out of the palace, the eyeliners of the other villains will follow them. If they leave the capital again, the other villains will teach them how to behave in minutes. Therefore, the two protagonists thought about it, and had no choice but to accept the suggestions of other protagonists in the protagonist group. First, hold still. At the same time, don't give Sumo a chance to attack. Even so, they are still uneasy, they are really not sure what is the relationship between Sumo and Queen Crescent Moon. These two guys were not in the mood to sleep all night. It's really embarrassing. When we grow up, we will pay them back with interest sooner or later. At the same time, in the abyss, where the succubus dynasty was, a team of powerful demons flew up from the abyss. Being able to fly in the abyss and ravines, these demons are not weak. This is the succubus dynasty, those who come here will stop. These demons were stopped by the succubus stationed in the ravine. We are under the command of the long-nailed demon god. The demon god has faith, please hand it over to your god. A demon king-level demon flew out of the succubus dynasty, said. Long-nailed devil? Hearing the demon king's words, the succubuses quickly reported it. Soon, succubus Queen Barbara flew out from a space door. She flew over and took the letter from the demon king. Please turn it over to your gods as soon as possible, this matter has some urgency. After that demon king finished speaking, he led people back into the abyss. Barbara returned to the core of the dynasty with the letter from the spike demon god, and then took out a magic device. In the palace, Sumo's heart moved. With a slight flick of his finger, the magic disc on the ground lit up, and a magic circle silently activated, obscuring the connection between the room and the outside. Then, with a movement of his ring, a white magic worm was released. This is the mother-in-law monster. Even if they are separated by a world, they can communicate. Sumo here is the female devil. There are also a large number of sub-magic insects in the hands of the succubus. The demon worm sent out a mental wave that only Sumo could understand. Soon, with this mental wave, Sumo knew the message from Barbara. The long-nailed demon god gave him a letter. Without Sumo's permission, Barbara naturally dared not open the letter.
Also, she may not be able to open it. Barbara, open the letter.
Sumo gave orders through the female demon bug. In the abyss, Barbara took out another device and placed the letter carefully. Then, open. As soon as it was opened, a small long-nailed devil jumped out from inside. Huh. Succubus? Didn't I ask you to hand over the letter to your demon god? Hey, what qualifications do you have to talk to me? As soon as the little spike demon god saw Barbara, he roared like thunder. The voice of the little long-nailed demon fell, and there was a mental wave from a demon in Barbara's hand. Long nail, what's the matter, tell me. This mental wave was passed on by Sumo through the mother-in-law monster. Although it is not strong, it can be barely used to communicate. The long-nailed demon god felt Sumo's mental fluctuations and said, Succubus demon god, do you want to join forces to make a vote? Make a vote? How? Sumo asked lightly. The bait I threw in the world of the gods was activated. There are a few wise careerists who want to trade with me. They will use the blood sacrifice method to help me open the channel. Long-nailed demon Shinto. Oh? In the room, Sumo frowned. In the world of gods, someone wants to trade with the devil? Dealing with demons often doesn't end well. Moreover, it is not so easy for the devil to come. The stronger the force, the larger the channel required. Don't look at Sumo's ability to penetrate into the abyss freely in his own territory, that's because Sumo's succubus blood can be hidden at will. When the succubus bloodline is hidden, the passage that Sumo needs is very small. Other demons can't. It is more difficult for them to reach the world of the gods and requires a larger passage. Even the gods from the heavens have restrictions on coming to the world of gods. It makes no sense that the devils can come easily, right? Sumo. is just an example, not for reference. The long-nailed demon god said excitedly. The location should be the New Moon Kingdom. That area is the territory of the 7 moon goddesses. The 7 moon goddesses have not been very harmonious for a long time, and the new moon goddess may not have support in a short time. When that time comes, we will be together. Come, do a big vote. New Moon Kingdom? The expression on Sumo's face was rather odd. So. The plan of those guys is like this. The courage is not small. In the room, Sumo whispered. After the Spike Demon God said the name of the New Moon Kingdom, Sumo instantly thought of the villain alliance. Those villains didn't feel simple to Sumo, and Sumo always felt that they would make big moves recently. Originally, Sumo was still guessing what the villains were going to do. They are currently on the bright side, that is, a sanctuary-level combat power. Although a sanctuary is powerful, it is not enough to do things in the capital. Now, Sumo knows. These guys are obviously preparing to trade with the demon gods in the abyss. He even did not hesitate to launch a blood sacrifice to open a channel for the devil. To disrupt the situation, they will take advantage of the chaos to kill the protagonists. Sumo easily guessed all their plans. After all, the status of these protagonists is too low. Although the growth is fast, the time is too short. In a few days, there is no way to grow too much. Even so, if nothing else happens, it will be difficult for this villain alliance to get so many protagonists. But what if something bigger happens? For example, devil invasion. At that time, the new Moon King was in chaos. This villain alliance has a sanctuary, and it is not only difficult to kill these protagonists who are not very high in the chaos, and there will be no problems. Ordinary people are not qualified to trade with the devil, and it is easy to be discovered. But these guys are big nobles in the New Moon Kingdom, and everyone has a lot of energy. Not to mention, they are still traversers. I am afraid that they have already arranged it, and if they do it more closely, they will not be implicated in themselves. Travelers really have no taboos, Sumo whispers. Even if the devil invades, even if it is repelled, I don't know how many people will die, but these few people don't care so much. According to their plan, if it works well, the protagonist in the royal capital, let alone killing a clean one, it is no problem to kill more than half of them. Don't forget, these days, the number of protagonists who come to the capital is still increasing. After these villains got the most difficult protagonists in the capital, they got their gold finger. Their own growth will also accelerate. Taking advantage of the chaos caused by the demon invasion, they dispatch the sanctuary to find the protagonists in other areas. Maybe it can really purify the protagonist in the New Moon Kingdom. These guys are bold and not small. If it wasn't for the Spike Demon God who just happened to find Sumo, Sumo might not have guessed it. However, things just happened to be so interesting. Several people in the villain alliance can't think of it. The demon god they contacted was actually the Spike Demon God Sumo knew. In Sumo's eyes, the Spike Devil is a big fool, but compared to humans, this guy is too cunning. Those villains trading with the Spike Demon God is no different from walking a tightrope on a sea of a euro fire. Succubus Demon God. How is it? There are already several passages near the New Moon Capital. My people have already passed through some, but the passage is not big enough and needs to be widened. If you want, I will give you a passage. After the Spike Demon God finished speaking, he asked without hearing Sumo's answer. Sumo asked lightly, when are you going to start? The long-nailed demon god did not have any doubts and said, of course, the blessing ceremony of the new moon goddess is about to end. At that time, the most devout believers of the new moon goddess will all be in the capital. How about we distribute the souls of these devout believers according to their contribution? Sumo pondered for a while and said, okay, you give me a passage. Then it's settled. Don't open the passage too much in the past 2 days. The magic circle they spread is too weak. The passage is too large and easy to expose. If the passage is lost, your people will not be able to come. When the time comes, don't say I didn't take advantage of you. After the little Spike Demon God finished speaking, he threw out a mass of black energy. Inside is the imprint of a passage. Immediately afterwards, the little Spike Demon God once again turned into a letter. When needed, it can be activated to communicate with the Spike Demon God. Barbara placed the letter in a sealing device. Barbara, open the passage, send someone to take a look, and then contact me. Sumo ended the call after giving Barbara an order through the mother bug. The female worm has carried his will for such a long time, and it is almost unbearable. After feeding the female worm a little energy, Sumo took the female worm into the space ring. Then, Sumo removed the magic circle to avoid attracting attention. In the capital, except for some specific areas, magic circles suddenly appeared in other areas. Once they were detected, they would be paid attention to. This is to avoid some assassins and the like, using the magic circle to cover up the movement and kill. Of course, like the magic disc in Sumo's hand, not many people have it. On the other side, after receiving the order, Barbara quickly used a lot of magic stones to open the passage. Then, Barbara sent some servants of the succubus dynasty into the passage. As soon as they entered the passage, these servant demons appeared in a magic circle. Here, there is still a lot of distance from the capital. This magic circle arranged in an abandoned building obscured the divine light in the sky, so that after the appearance of the servants and demons, they were not noticed. There are no humans in the magic circle. After a servant demon went back to report the situation, a succubus appeared in the magic circle. The succubus observed the magic circle. Soon, everything was figured out by her. These situations were reported to Sumo by Barbara in the early morning of the next day. The range of the magic circle is not small, and the layout is different. It is purely drawn using magic stones as the driving force, plus short-term magic patterns. The entire magic circle will completely dissipate just after the blessing of the new moon goddess. Not even a trace will remain. There are no humans around in the magic circle. The guys in the villain alliance did a perfect job. Completely plucked them out on their own. It's not easy to find them. This passage can be used to let the demon army enter in advance and hide. As for the coming of the devil, it is still not acceptable. This passage is too small. Several guys in the villain alliance must have other arrangements. Maybe, a large number of dead soldiers have been arranged for a blood sacrifice at that time. Just waiting for the demon army to rush out and the attention of the new moon goddess is attracted, the blood sacrifice begins, and the power after the demon god descends will shatter everything around the blood sacrifice venue. There is no trace at all, and it is not easy to trace who organized the blood sacrifice. These guys have taken themselves out again. There are many dead soldiers who want to open the channel of the devil and participate in the blood sacrifice. Ordinary nobles, it is basically impossible to do all this quietly. Those guys are not small. It is also worthy of their identity after crossing. After figuring out the situation of the magic circle, Sumo basically understood the layout of several guys in the villain alliance. As for the spike demon god, this guy called Sumo, but he didn't want to give Sumo some benefits. As a demon god, how could this guy be so kind? Otherwise, why did he just give Sumo a channel? It's clear. Wanting Sumo to give him a little attention and a little pressure. Then, give Sumo another sip of the soup to get rid of Sumo. This guy's head is not that stupid. Sumo smiled. He sat on a chair made of gold, looked ahead, and thought silently. This chair is what Sumo carries with him. No way, he is not used to sitting in other chairs. Soon, Sumo had a plan. Spike. I'm sorry. Sumo's plan is doomed to be a nail in the coffin. Moreover, it has to be severely pitted. More than just spikes. There are many people who Sumo wants to pit. Even a few Duke-level villains have such big moves. Sumo is a dignified devil, how could it be possible for them to steal the limelight? Of course, for him, the most important thing now is the blessing ceremony. That is related to the next evolution of his bloodline, and more importantly, the understanding of celestial power. The villain alliance's action this time is just right to take advantage of it. If you use it well, this time, you might be able to bring the new Moon Kingdom into your secret control in one fell swoop. Huh. I'm so sleepy. Me too. Being the protagonist is really tiring. Why is the protagonist in the novel so handsome? Maybe we are too rubbish. Look at the forum. There are some very powerful protagonists who dare to confront the villain. Yeah, who made us bronze level rubbish. Fortunately, he didn't make a move, which means that he didn't dare to shoot unscrupulously. A euro at this time, outside Sumo's palace, the two protagonists who joined the palace guard were quietly chatting on the protagonist panel. These two guys didn't sleep much last night. They really can't sleep. Sumo is next to him. How can they sleep? As for going, they don't dare to go. The captain of the guard is still there. How do they go? Isn't that giving Sumo an excuse to deal with them? Therefore, these two guys were on the alert all night, and stayed up all night abruptly. Although their strength is already good, they are also a little uncomfortable to endure like this. At this time, the sound of the palace gate opening sounded. There is movement. The two protagonists quickly stood up and looked at the palace gate. I saw that Sumo appeared there and waved to the captain of the guard. The captain of the guard walked over. Then, they saw again, Sumo pointed at them. The two protagonists looked at each other and felt bad. "You two, go in and help the Count carry something," said the captain of the guard. "Oops, he's going to be tough. Why can he command the captain of the guard? Once we go in, if he makes any excuses, he may forcibly kill us, and at most, he will be blamed by the queen. How to do? €1. The two protagonists suddenly panicked. They are not the protagonists of the Ring Stream, otherwise, they would still want to fight with Sumo. Although the protagonist of Ring Stream needs to practice on his own, there is an additional means of life-saving in the early stage. Even, as long as you are brave and make good use of it, you may be able to kill the protagonist in the early stage. What are you still doing? Seeing that the two protagonists did not move, the captain of the guard said loudly for fear that Sumo would be angry. If it was another noble, the captain of the guard would not sell it at all. Nobles can't control the queen's guard. But Kathy, the queen's most trusted female official, specially instructed last night to deal with Sumo with the highest standards. What Sumo asks, must also be met. The captain of the guard naturally dare not offend Sumo. Seeing that the captain of the guards was angry, the two protagonists could only bite the bullet and go forward. Like two ants with broken legs on a hot pan. In a hurry, but there is no escape. The two kept asking what to do on the protagonist panel, but none of them had a good solution. If they don't obey the orders, they won't be able to pass the level of the captain of the guard. So, in the end, the two of them came to the front of the captain of the guard. "Captain, what do you need to move? We stayed there for a night last night. We didn't sleep much. We're not physically strong. I'm afraid it will delay the Earl's affairs. Do you want to replace two people?" The two protagonists are still struggling. A protagonist even quietly took out a handful of gold coins, ready to bribe the captain of the guard. Sumo glanced at the two guys lightly, then turned around and entered the house. "You. Are you courting death? The Count has appointed you to help, but you dare to scoff at me. Who am I? Go, or the Count will get angry." The captain of the guard snorted softly and said, "Captain, then come in with us." The protagonist took out another handful of gold coins. Roll. How dare the captain of the guards accept them, one person and one kick, kicking them towards the gate. Seeing this, the two protagonists could only cry and walk into the palace. After walking in, they saw that there were still some people in the palace carrying things. Really moving things? The two protagonists were taken aback. They didn't know it at all, and when they entered the palace, they were already hit by Sumo's illusion. They haven't slept all night, and they are too anxious, and their spirits are already in a trance. Even if Sumo doesn't use the succubus's eyes, it's easy to get them to talk. The door to the palace was not closed. "You two, go and move that box." In the vision, a man spoke to them. The two protagonists walked into the depths of the palace, and soon, came to a separate room. As he was about to move things, in this room, Sumo's eyes glowed red. The two protagonists were stunned for a moment. Soon, a lot of information was spat out by them. 17. Sumo whispers. These two protagonists know a lot of things. For example, they know that there are currently 17 protagonists in the capital. Moreover, there are still some protagonists coming. They don't know what the other protagonists' gold fingers are, but they generally know which one is the most powerful. In the New Moon Magic Academy, the protagonist who was accepted as a closed disciple by the sanctuary was very powerful. According to their description, Sumo felt that the protagonist should be a talent stream. The magic talent may be full, at least a silver-level protagonist. There is another one, deep in the Holy See, which is very valued by the Holy See and is being secretly cultivated by the Holy See. It is said that the protagonist may even enter the site of the new moon goddess. Sure enough, the protagonists gathered. It is not easy to find so many protagonists in other places. I didn't expect that he didn't kill us. I said, in the palace, as long as we don't make mistakes, how dare he easily kill people, it will make him offend the queen, and his status in the kingdom will decrease. Well, what these villains can rely on now is mainly their own identity. Without identity, they are nothing. I still have to be careful. The feeling of this Earl of the Blackstone Land is very different from other villains. Outside the palace where Sumo lived, the two protagonists came out, chatting happily on the protagonist panel. Because when they first entered the palace, the Earl of Moishi Land really only asked them to move things. Didn't kill them. This gave the two protagonists a sigh of relief. Li Fei, Han Yu, how is your situation? In the protagonist group, the other protagonists asked with concern. We're okay. The Earl of Moshiling didn't dare to do it. Among the two protagonists, the protagonist named Han Yu explained the situation one by one. Look, I told you not to panic, you two are too nervous. I don't blame them. After all, the Earl of the Blackstone territory has dealt with Tang Hua as soon as he came, and the means are ruthless. It's normal for them to be nervous. Looking at it this way, after all, the Earl of Mo Shilling can't do whatever he wants, that's fine, otherwise I wouldn't dare to come to the capital. Come here while the blessing ceremony begins. These days, the capital has 3 steps and 1 post, and 5 steps and 1 soldier. These villains dare not take action. In the protagonist group, the atmosphere quickly relaxed. Your Majesty has a request. At the palace, soon, Su Mo received a notification from a female official. He left the palace and glanced at the two protagonists who were guarding outside the palace. The two guys quickly stood up straight and looked straight ahead, like other guards. Tang Hua's lessons were there. This time Su Mo didn't kill them again, so they felt that as long as he didn't make a mistake, Su Mo wouldn't dare to do it. Su Mo looked away and got into the carriage. The gold finger of these two guys is a bit interesting. The gold fingers of the two guys are a bit similar. As long as they work 9 to 5 somewhere, they will continue to be rewarded and their strength will continue to grow. The stronger the place they are, the faster their strength grows. No wonder, these two guys went to the palace to join the guard. Not just to save lives. More to become stronger. The gold fingers of these protagonists are really strange. Every gold finger can become stronger as long as the level is raised. These two guys didn't know that Su Mo didn't kill them, just because their gold finger was a little useless in Su Mo's opinion, and they were not in a hurry, and Su Mo didn't want to affect the later plans. Otherwise, it would be too easy to find an excuse to kill these two people based on his relationship with the Queen of the New Moon. Not long after, Su Mo appeared in another palace. Mo, the goddess has sent down the oracle, and I just received the news. The Queen of the Crescent Moon saw Su Mo coming, said. Looking at her expression, this oracle doesn't seem to be good news. What did the goddess say? Su Mo asked. The Queen of the New Moon said worriedly. The goddess hopes that you will go to the Holy Sea again, she will cast her eyes. I feel that the goddess may want you to be her holy son. I see. This news is really not good news for Queen Crescent Moon. She stepped down as a saint in order to concentrate on being a queen. Find yourself a good husband and give birth to a descendant. The king cannot be without a queen. It is not a good thing for a king to have no descendants. Once the king dies unexpectedly and has no descendants, even if the Holy See intervenes, the entire king will inevitably fall into chaos. God is indeed powerful, but there is more than one God in this world. If the king has no direct descendants, the kingdom has no legitimate heir. The minds of some careerists will become active, and they will also seek the support of other gods. Anyway, they only want the throne of the king, as for which god the whole kingdom believes in. To these careerists, it doesn't really matter. Even, in order to get what they want, even if they trade with the devil, they can do it. The Queen of the Crescent Moon wants to marry Su Mo, but once the goddess of the Crescent Moon chooses Su Mo as her holy child, how will she marry? That's what worries her. Otherwise, this news is definitely good news for an ordinary earl. The weight of the Count and the Holy Son of the Holy See is incomparable. Whether it's in terms of status or power. After the death of the Son, the possibility of the soul being introduced into the heavens is not small. As for Su Mo, it has other meanings. If you change to the Long Nail Devil, you can become the most trusted son of a goddess in the sky through perfect disguise. This cowhide, the Long Nail Devil, is estimated to be able to blow for tens of thousands of years. No, a lifetime. Queen, didn't you say that the goddess never had a son? Su Mo asked. The Queen of the Crescent Moon nodded. I have never had it before, but I have never seen a man with such a high degree of soul purity before, and when a man faces the goddess, as long as he has a little distraction, it is impossible to pass. Speaking of which, she thought of a solution, but this solution was quickly denied by her. Because this method is disrespectful to the goddess, it may also affect Su Mo. She wanted Su Mo, when the goddess of the new moon cast her eyes, to deliberately have some thoughts of admiration for the goddess. There are distractions, indicating that the belief is not firm enough, and the possibility of the new moon goddess choosing Su Mo is very low. Let's go to the Holy See first, maybe the goddess is just curious. The words of Queen Crescent Moon were more like comforting herself. So, the two set off again. As the carriage drove out of the palace and came to the square below the temple, Queen Crescent's mood also became complicated, and even a little uneasy. I'm afraid that Sumo is really favored by the goddess. There are still a lot of protagonists near the temple, but this time there is naturally no protagonist. Even, those protagonists will deliberately avoid Sumo and avoid meeting Sumo. In this way, the carriage drove all the way to the back of the church. Cardinal Phelan appeared. After a brief greeting with Sumo, Phelan said, "Your Excellency, please take a shower and change clothes first." Soon, the two nuns led Sumo to a solemnly decorated room. After putting away the clothes, they walked out. In the room, Sumo was the only one left. The hot water was already ready, and although there was no surveillance, Sumo simply washed it with hot water. Then, he put on his clothes and entered a magic circle with a cleansing effect. The magic circle will completely remove the dust and the like from the body. Such a magic circle is very extravagant for ordinary people. The energy needed to activate it once can be converted into ordinary people's meals for several days. Things related to magic are naturally expensive. This is also the reason that although magic in this world is extremely developed, the living standard of many ordinary people is not high. The cost of using magic items is too high. After everything was done, Sumo went out the door. "Holy Maiden, please bring the Count into the temple." Cardinal Ferran rode. This time, the reason why he was so solemn was because he wanted to enter the temple. That is, the floating pyramid in the sky. Asterisk in the empty temple, Queen Crescent was in front and Sumo was behind, and stepped inside. Soon, the two came to the center of the temple. The Queen of the Crescent Moon looked extremely holy in pure white clothes. This is her aspect of being a saint, she prayed. With the prayer of the Queen of the New Moon, the temple lights up. The pure white holy light illuminates the entire hall. The layout in this temple is not complicated, it can even be said to be quite simple. The walls are made of a special metal that contains magical substances. There are no other decorations, but in midair you can see a crescent moon that seems to have just risen into the sky. This is the symbol of the new moon goddess, goddess of the new moon. One of the 7 goddesses of the moon. In the abyss, the 7 goddesses of the moon have a lot of fame. When the holy light came on, the interior of the temple felt extremely empty, as if it were endless and had no boundaries. That new moon also seemed to hang in the sky, reflecting the afterglow of the day. The Queen of the Crescent Moon was still standing there, praying devoutly. Soon. Finally, in the temple, there are new changes. The interior of the entire temple is still empty, but, inexplicably, there is a sacred atmosphere. Everything around, even the air, seems to be alive. The sight of the new moon goddess has come. Sumo thought. He stopped all his thoughts. The succubus blood is also tightly hidden. This is the first time he has officially appeared under the gaze of a celestial spirit. Not as a demon, but the identity of a human earl. Whether he can escape the detection of the other party, Sumo has enough confidence. Speaking of which, after becoming a demon god, Sumo's reputation has not yet spread to the heavens. I'm afraid that the new moon goddess doesn't even know that a demon god has been silently added to the abyss. Who made him become a devil so quickly? The gaze of the goddess came silently, and even the Queen of the New Moon did not notice it. She is still praying. Sumo noticed, but there was no clue in his expression. The goddess looked at Sumo for quite some time. "Mo, the goddess will give strength. You pray with all your strength to see if you can communicate with the goddess." The Queen of the Crescent Moon received the oracle and said to Sumo. Sumo prayed, and as he prayed, he soon felt that a grand door opened. Behind the gate is a sacred place full of endless light. Immediately afterwards, a force rushed out from there, and soon, it entered Sumo's body. With the entry of this power, Sumo felt that his succubus bloodline was about to move. Not the right time yet. Sumo forcibly suppressed the desire for the succubus blood. His succubus bloodline, after 20 years of evolution, has reached an incomparably high level. It has also faced a bottleneck. This bottleneck requires Sumo to break through with the power of the gods in the heavens. However, the demon gods and the gods in the heavens are inherently opposites. Which gods in the heavens will lend Sumo the most core power for Sumo to analyze? The goddess of the new moon is a breakthrough that Sumo found. The power of the new moon goddess quickly entered Sumo's body. Sumo's breath is constantly improving. Soon, it reached the forbidden spell level, then the legend, the sanctuary. Beside, on the pretty face of Queen Crescent Moon, there is surprise. Because of the power of the new moon goddess that Sumo carries, there are too many. You know, this is the first time Sumo communicated with the goddess of the new moon. The first communication, actually, there is such an effect. The power of the new moon goddess is still flowing into Sumo's body, and finally, the breath on Sumo's body has risen to the level of a demigod in one fell swoop. This is not Sumo's own power, but the power of the crescent moon goddess. In this way, the gods of the heavens can temporarily give power to their own holy son, or holy daughter, and can solve many things. The higher the purity and piety of the soul, the more power it can carry. Ordinary people are naturally unable to carry the power of God at all. It's not over yet, the breath on Sumo's body is still rising. Soon, it reached the peak of the demigod level, almost to the level of a pseudo-god. False gods are only one step away from the real gods. On the continent of gods, when a demon god descends, he is often suppressed to the level of a false god. Not far away, the pretty face of Queen Crescent Moon was already covered in surprise. She did not expect that Sumo could carry so much power of the new moon goddess. She is a saint, and she can barely carry the power of a demigod. The duration is also very short. But Sumo communicated with the goddess of the new moon for the first time. The power he carries is actually approaching the pseudo-god. Finally, the breath on Sumo's body trembled. The power he carries has reached the level of a pseudo-god. Then, those powers faded quickly. The goddess of the new moon took back her powers. Inc. The queen of the new moon didn't know whether to be happy or worried. Sumo carries too much power, which shows that Sumo's soul purity is not generally high, and the communication with the new moon goddess is so smooth. The first communication can carry the power of pseudo-god level. Such Sumo. It's hard to keep the new moon goddess unmoved. In the temple, the power of the new moon goddess was withdrawn very quickly. The reason why he retracted it so quickly was probably because he was worried that the first time he lowered his strength, if it lasted for too long, it would have an impact on Sumo's body. Even the holy son and the holy daughter cannot carry the power of God for a long time. After the power of the goddess was withdrawn, her gaze did not withdraw. After staying on Sumo's body for some time, Sumo felt that the eyes of the goddess of the new moon were withdrawn again. Then, the queen of the crescent moon received a new oracle. Let's go. After receiving the new oracle, Queen Crescent's mood was more complicated. Because, according to the content of the oracle, the goddess of the new moon is probably really tempted by Sumo. This kind of temptation, of course, does not refer to the temptation between men and women. Rather, the goddess of the new moon probably has the heart to make Sumo her holy son. Although, the goddess of the new moon never conceived a son. Seeing that Sumo is very likely to be favored by the goddess, her heart is full of mixed feelings. She should be happy for the goddess of the new moon, because a more powerful son or daughter is of great significance to the gods. If God wants to come in person, some ceremonies need to be prepared, and there are certain risks. The loss of power is also considerable. However, through the way of the son or the virgin, it is possible for a god to bring down the greatest power with the least loss. At this time, the upper limit of the power that the holy son or the holy daughter can carry is very important. The upper limit of power that Sumo can carry, due to the special laws of the world of the gods, almost reaches the ceiling of the continent of the gods itself. For the goddess of the new moon, it means too much. But, Sumo is already the one and only favorite in her mind. In addition to Sumo, there is no other person in her heart. I don't even care about other men. You know, her love for Sumo, but even the divine light of the new moon goddess can't stop it. Under the shroud of divine light, the saintess are naturally insulated from emotions such as affection and love. But here at Sumo, it is an exception. Of course, things are not settled yet. The queen of the new moon guessed that this should be because the goddess is still planning to observe for a while, and then make a decision after the blessing ceremony. After all, it's no small matter. In addition, Sumo's wishes are also taken into account. If Sumo is not willing, the goddess of the crescent moon is also difficult to force. The two left the temple, appeared in the teleportation array below. Holy Maiden, the goddess has just sent an oracle, let us treat the count with high standards. Cardinal Phelan has arrived. After speaking, he took out a white token with a unique magic wave on it. Count, if you need it, you can use this token to mobilize a team of temple knights. Bishop Farron presented the token hands to Sumo. Although I don't know what happened in the temple. But since the goddess of the new moon specially passed down the oracle, it is a powerful explanation. As a cardinal, Bishop Farron knows too well what this means. Therefore, even if he had a high position in the Holy See, Bishop Farron, who had to respectfully salute him even when the Duke saw him, unconsciously became respectful when facing Sumo. In fact, in other kingdoms, the king had to salute when he saw the cardinal. The Crescent Kingdom is still an exception, because the Crescent Queen herself is a saint of God. Even the Holy Order was given to him. When the Queen of the Crescent Moon saw Bishop Farron's actions, her mood became more complicated. Su Mo has yet to show a desire to join the Holy See. However, Bishop Farron gave Su Mo a holy order that could mobilize the Templar Knights at will. That's a Temple Knight. In the Holy See, there are very few people who have the right to mobilize. Thank you, Bishop Phelan. Su Mo was rude and took the holy order. No, I'm just following the orders of the gods. With the holy orders, the Earl can take a look around the Holy See and learn about the deeds of the goddess. Bishop Phelan invited. Su Mo really turned around in the Holy See. Bishop Phelan personally accompanied him. With Su Mo, I visited everywhere. The Holy See headquarters is very large and has many people. There are hundreds of thousands of clergy in the Holy See alone. There are also a large number of magicians, priests, magicians, magic weavers, knights, etc. in the Holy See, as well as a special alchemy department, which is responsible for making some magic supplies. Like a magic flying boat. From the situation of the Holy See, we can also see the background of a god. In terms of heritage, the current Su Mo is not as good as the new moon goddess. After all, the world of his becoming a god is too short. In addition, the powers mastered by the demon gods and the gods in the celestial world are completely different. This library has many books that we have collected, including some ancient magic and magic. The time for these magic and magic is too long, and many of them are no longer practical, but they still have a lot of reference value. After a short while, Bishop Farron brought Su Mo to a library. The books in this library are indeed some old. Each book has a corresponding magical protection that guarantees that they will not rot over time. Su Mo picked up a book at random and turned it over. The magic recorded in the book is indeed ancient, and it is difficult to perform it completely until now. The way it is performed inside is quite different from what it is now. Times are changing. In the wizarding world, the same is true. Old does not necessarily mean good. Magic itself also has a process of development and optimization. New magic has to be optimized too much in terms of casting efficiency and consumption. However, if some special ancient magic can be displayed, the power is quite impressive. After turning a few pages, Su Mo looked in one direction. There, a man with a broom beside him who was looking at an ancient magic book was stunned when he saw Su Mo. Because, this guy in the Holy See library, who is responsible for sweeping and cleaning, is also a protagonist. Damn, this is the Earl of Moshiland. Why is he here? The protagonist's heart was subconsciously tight. He did not expect that Su Mo actually entered the core area of the Holy See. Sir Bishop, there is an emergency. At this time, a clergyman whispered into Bishop Farron's ear and spoke. Bishop Farron's expression changed, and he looked at Su Mo. Count, I still have some situations to deal with. The Count can move around at will, and the Count doesn't have to worry about any safety issues in the Holy See. Su Mo said lightly. Okay, the bishop will do his own work. Bishop Farron nodded at Su Mo and left in a hurry. The time is just right. Su Mo whispers. Su Mo knew why Bishop Farron left. Moreover, the time to leave is not much different from what Su Mo calculated. As soon as Bishop Farron left, in this library with a large number of ancient books, there were only the staff guarding the door and the guy who was sweeping the floor in the library. At this point, the protagonist has regained his composure. Maybe he came in under the pretext of borrowing a book. He definitely wouldn't dare to touch me here. The protagonist guesses. He didn't worry too much, because he predicted that Su Mo would never dare to do anything in the core area of the Holy See. He didn't provoke Su Mo either, but continued to flip through the book. As a handyman in this library, the protagonist sees himself as a sweeper of the otherworld. Because of his gold finger, he can extract ancient magic from these ancient books for himself. It can also extract the remaining magic power or other power from some ancient objects. For example, he extracted a trace of divine silk power from an ancient book, which greatly increased his strength. That's why he's in this library. In his opinion, as long as he can successfully nest here for a year or two, he can become a kind of existence like a sweeper in martial arts novels. This is the safest place for him. Although he pretended to be reading, he was also looking at Su Mo from the corner of his eye. I saw that Su Mo really seemed to be looking for books, taking out a book from the shelf from time to time, and then putting it back on it. But Su Mo is close to his position. The protagonist became wary. His own strength should not be particularly strong. He guessed. The advantages of many villains in the early stage come more from their identity and status, as well as the power they have. In a way, this is more trouble than its own strength. How can it be compared to having a powerful force alone? The strength of these villains themselves is not particularly strong. Soon, Sumo approached. "Hello, Count." Seeing Sumo approaching, the protagonist quickly put the book away, stood up straight, and saluted Sumo. He wouldn't give Sumo any excuse to find fault. Sumo's eyes stayed on him. The plain eyes seemed to have enormous power, making the protagonist feel a little uncomfortable all over his body. After being watched by Sumo for nearly a minute, the protagonist felt out of breath. "My lord, do you have any orders?" The protagonist gritted his head. Sumo withdrew his gaze and said indifferently, "It's a good hiding. I hope that in a day's time, other people can hide as well as you." After saying that, Sumo turned and left here. What's the meaning? The protagonist was full of doubts. However, seeing that Sumo left, the protagonist was relieved even though he was sure that Sumo would not dare to shoot. "I have to quickly extract that magic, so that I also have a certain amount of self-protection," the protagonist thought. His gold finger is somewhat similar to the gold finger of picking up attributes. Harvest depends on the level of items you can access. The level of contact of the protagonist who picks up attributes is too low. And this protagonist, hidden in this library of the Holy See, acts as a sweeping monk. Here, there are a large number of ancient magic books. His growth rate is much faster. Don't look at his lack of appearance. In fact, this guy's own strength, among the protagonists in the capital, already belongs to the strongest group. Who made the environment of this library so suitable for him? Where was this caught? At this time, in a secret room in the headquarters of the Holy See, there are some abyss creatures that look a bit terrifying. This is an earth demon, not a demon, but a type of abyss creature. To the north, Shengguang caught a faint demonic aura. After we chased it, we found a small passage in an underground cave. That passage has been blocked by us. A temple knight in mithril armor said, "Have you searched the surrounding area?" Bishop Phelan said, "A vigorous search is underway and nothing else has been found so far." The temple knight said again, "The blessing ceremony of the goddess seems to have attracted some demons' covetousness. Don't make any noise about this matter. Please inform the holy maiden, comprehensively strengthen the guard of the capital, and then send some temple knights and magicians from other areas to come back." Bishop Phelan quickly made arrangements. Of course, the blessing ceremony of the goddess cannot be interrupted because of some demons. At the same time, this incident should not be spread out to avoid causing panic. But he didn't take it lightly. Instead, he wanted to raise the alert level of the capital by another level. After thinking about it, Bishop Phelan still felt unsafe. He is getting old, and he will retire after being a cardinal for a few years. He has been stable for a lifetime, but he cannot make mistakes in the last few years. "I'm going to pray to the goddess, let the goddess have some preparations first." After Bishop Farron finished speaking, he left here. Bishop Farron didn't know that the demon he coveted this time was not a simple demon. That's exactly what Sumo is for. Sumo also made the small passages of the demons in the underground. That channel has been around for a long time, and Sumo is only now enabled. It's just a very small passage, and even stronger succubuses can't get through. Sumo naturally won't let the succubus come over. Just use the cannon fodder everywhere in the succubus dynasty, and that's it. Just used to make the Holy See vigilant. In this way, the long-nailed devil is not so easy to obtain. The loss of the Crescent Kingdom would not be much. Sumo can operate more space. No surprise to Sumo. At noon the next day, the Queen of the New Moon, who has been busy until now, found Sumo. "Mo, there is a new situation. This time the blessing ceremony, it is very likely that demons will make trouble." As soon as the Queen of the Crescent Moon saw Sumo, she told Sumo this secret that few people in the Holy See knew. "The devil is making trouble." A look of surprise appeared on Sumo's face. The Queen of the New Moon nodded. "Yes, the people of the Holy See found a passage in the northern mountains, and also killed some abyss creatures. Although no other passage has been found so far, the devil is likely to have some actions." After speaking, it seems that Sumo is worried. The Queen of the New Moon added, "But don't worry, we have already made some preparations. The goddess will definitely give you more blessings this time." Sumo made an "oh" sound. "I'm going to rest for a while. Go to bed early tonight. At 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, we'll go to the Holy See together." The Queen of the New Moon said, "It is good." Sumo agreed. He returned to the palace, rested, and looked like he was not going anywhere. Outside the palace, the two protagonists in the palace guard were not as worried as before. But they were still cautious, for fear of giving Su Mo an excuse to do it. Time flies. An afternoon passed quickly. Tomorrow morning is the time for the grand blessing ceremony to begin. Night falls. Tomorrow is the blessing. In the capital, it was even more lively. The entire capital was brightly lit. In the sky, a large number of magical flames also floated, illuminating the entire capital. The streets of the capital are also very lively. People come and go. Some taverns were even crowded with people from all directions. There are also a large number of merchants who have seized the opportunity to sell goods on the street and make a lot of money. The blessing ceremony is not held every year, but often only once every few years. It is also a grand event for the New Moon Kingdom. Those who are qualified to come to participate came to the royal capital early. There are some people who are just here to join in the fun. I want to see a miracle. There are also some businessmen and the like who take this opportunity to come, and want to take this opportunity to make more powerful contacts and increase their personal connections. The entire royal capital, because of this blessing, may have added millions of people. Is this the royal capital? It's really prosperous. Although this otherworld's technology is not very good, its prosperous level is not inferior at all. In the crowd, a person stood on the street, looking at the street where people came and went, said, "I'm in the capital, is anyone out for a drink?" Then the person sent a message on a panel that no one else could see at all. What a coincidence. I'm here too, haha, the capital is really lively. I've already found a few villains, but they haven't done much. Do you believe it? In the capital, the villains don't dare to do whatever they want. On his panel, in a group of protagonists, a lot of news appeared. Obviously, this is a protagonist who has just arrived in the capital. In addition to him, there is another protagonist who also rushed to the capital. All are preparing to develop in the capital. Everyone, be careful. It's been a few days and these villains haven't moved. This is not their style. I feel that they may be ready to bring us a big wave. In the protagonist group, there is a protagonist. What kind of big things can they come? How dare they do it? There are also protagonists who don't care. How is the situation? At the same time as the protagonist group became lively, in the royal capital, in a tall building, several people gathered there. They didn't chat directly, but in a small group of just a few of them. Everything is business as usual, but the vigilance of the capital seems to have been strengthened a lot in the past 2 days. Tomorrow is the gift of blessing. It's normal to increase the alert, as long as they don't find it. Well, let your subordinates keep an eye on them and pay attention to the movements of these protagonists at any time. It is good. These people are the Duke-level villains in the Villain Alliance. They have been preparing for so long, and as soon as the blessing ceremony is over tomorrow, it is time for them to start. The reason for waiting for the blessing ceremony to end is also very simple. Because the goddess of the new moon has just completed a large-scale blessing, restricted by the laws of the world of gods, the difficulty of her arrival will increase in a short period of time. In this way, once the demon invades, it can further chaotic the situation. For them, the more chaotic the situation, the better their chances. The number of protagonists is approaching 20. This time, how can we kill more than a dozen? Together, these Duke villains feel that the harvest this time must be great. You can get a lot of villain values, and the most important gold finger. As long as there is gold finger, with the resources in their hands, they believe that they can develop faster. Gold finger is very important. What kind of gold finger to keep? Let's discuss it first, and we will try to find a gold finger that suits us. A Duke-level villain said. Well, knock them out first, and then kill them together, which will also facilitate the distribution of benefits. Another Duke-level villain also spoke up. In their view, the plan has been more than half successful so far. This plan is also seamless in their eyes, and it is impossible for others to notice. Although the vigilance of the royal capital has increased significantly in the past 2 days, this strengthening is more of a secret. Nor did they agree. Tomorrow, the blessing ceremony will begin. Strengthen your guard. Isn't it a normal operation? In the entire royal capital, undercurrents are surging. The protagonists are still unaware that the crisis is coming. As for Su Mo, in the palace of the royal palace, he rested silently. The night was getting darker. The new Moon King capital is still extremely lively. Tonight is destined to be a sleepless night. The 2 protagonists who were guarding outside the palace also got the opportunity to take turns and went to rest in a special cabin on the side. After Su Mo didn't move them for 2 consecutive days, their vigilance was also put down. In this way, they fell asleep in a daze. After 12 o'clock. A protagonist suddenly woke up, because he heard a voice. You have clocked in at work for a week in a row and received a bronze treasure chest. Do you want to open it? Hey, do you have a treasure chest? The protagonist came to the spirit, looked forward, and saw his own protagonist panel in a trance. There seems to be a treasure chest on the panel. Open. He excitedly opened it. You open the bronze treasure chest to obtain prophecy. On the panel, a prompt message appears. Prophecy? 2-6. The protagonist was very happy. He didn't expect that a treasure chest would explode with prophecy. Use and see. Immediately, he used prophecy. With this use, some vague pictures and information appeared in his field of vision. I saw that the capital was in chaos for some reason, and their protagonists were being hunted down by an extremely powerful enemy. Not even a protagonist with a ring could block that enemy. Only a few protagonists hiding in the Holy See managed to escape. He himself was killed. Call. This terrifying scene was so real that it made the protagonist sweat. He didn't notice at all. His main character panel was actually fake, and even if he opened it, he wouldn't be able to see it. This so-called reward, the so-called treasure chest, the so-called prophecy, are just the backhand left by Sumo a few days ago. Sumo planted an illusion in the depths of the protagonist's consciousness. Today, after a few days of deep planting, this phantom seed quietly burst open. Formed a fantasy that the protagonist could not distinguish the real or the fake at all. Li Fei, wake up, wake up. The protagonist hurriedly woke up his companion. What's wrong? Asked his companion. After I was in the guard for 7 days, I got a prophecy. Guess what I saw with the prophecy? The protagonist said. Prophecy? What did you see, Han Yu? The protagonist named Li Fei was a little envious. He joined the palace guard a day later, and it has not been 7 days. The protagonist named Han Yu told the terrible scene he saw in the prophecy. Oh my god. Li Fei was also frightened. These villains are indeed brewing a big wave. Li Fei didn't doubt it. After all, the scene that Han Yu saw was seen through the skills given by Goldfinger. It seems that it is only safe to go to the Holy See tomorrow. Do you want to inform them? Han Yu asked. Li Gui pondered for a while and said, let me know, otherwise the villain will kill them, and after they get their Goldfinger, it will be more difficult to deal with in the future. 2. Han Yu immediately sent a message in the group, talking about his prophecy and the scene he saw. At this time, many protagonists have risen. There are also protagonists still sleeping. What? Is your prophecy so good? You actually see tomorrow's situation? A protagonist asked. Of course, this is what I opened the treasure chest, I can guarantee it is true. Han Yu, who has been completely bewildered by the magic seed, vowed. The illusion continued for a lot of time, and in a short time, he couldn't tell the difference. I just said that these villains are brewing a big move. Han Yu, have you seen the chaos they caused? Another protagonist asked. I didn't see it, I just saw that the capital was in chaos, and then their strong men were chasing us. We died a dozen or so, and only a few people in the Holy See headquarters survived. Han Yu said. The Holy See headquarters, are you sure? Tell me more about what you saw. The group of protagonists was lively. In the middle of the night, is it noisy? The Holy See headquarters, in an attic near the library, the protagonist of the sweeping monk, who lived in it was awakened. He set up message reminders to avoid missing important messages. After waking up, as soon as the protagonist group was opened, the protagonist's face changed after reading the news. Then, he remembered what Sumo said in the library yesterday. Sumo's words yesterday made him wonder for a long time. But because he wanted to extract the magic from an ancient magic book, he didn't think too much. Thinking about it now, Sumo seems to have something else to say. Most of the actions of the villains are true, and Han Yu's prophecy should be accurate. Yesterday, the Earl of Mo Shilling went to the library of the Holy See headquarters and gave me a hint. The protagonist quickly started talking in the group. In the group, the other protagonists also quieted down and listened to him. I was still thinking about what that sentence meant. Now that I think about it, the Earl of Moishi Land must have known the actions of other villains, so it hinted us. The protagonist said. The Earl of the Blackstone Territory is also a villain. Is he so kind? A protagonist said immediately. It's not kind, he wants to kill us himself, and if the other villains kill us, he won't get any benefits, so he ran out to disrupt the situation. The other protagonist dispassionate analysis. Yes, I feel like this. There is competition among these villains. Who doesn't want to be the strongest villain? The protagonist of the sweeping monk hurriedly said. This Earl of the Blackstone Country is a bit interesting. He is not afraid that after we have survived this wave, he will grow to a point that he cannot control. The calm protagonist hummed softly. Let's not talk about the Earl of Moshi Land. Since it has been confirmed by many parties, most of this matter is true. What should we do? A protagonist asked. Going to the Holy See headquarters. I don't believe it. They dare to do it at the Holy See headquarters. This is what I saw in the prophecy. Han Yu suggested. No matter whether others go or not, he is going anyway. Well, tomorrow I'm thinking of going over to see what the power of God is like, so let's go to the Holy See headquarters. Another protagonist has a decision. Since this matter was discovered by Han Yu through the skills bestowed by Goldfinger, it was also confirmed by the protagonist of the sweeper. Plus they themselves participated in the whole process of reasoning. So, no protagonist has any doubts. Besides, if there is a crisis, going to the Holy See headquarters is also the best choice. As a result, these protagonists quickly took action. Prepare to rush to the Holy See headquarters overnight. They've all acted. What should we do? Sneak past now. Seeing that in the protagonist group, many protagonists left for the Holy See headquarters overnight, and the two protagonists outside Sumo Palace discussed it. They were in the palace guard, and it was not so convenient to go. However, with the crisis of life and death ahead, they didn't care so much anymore. Li Fei, I feel that even if we get through tomorrow's life and death crisis, this king's capital can't stay. If we can survive tomorrow, we can leave the king's capital in the chaos, even if we join some evil screams. Anyway, our Goldfinger, as long as you clock in at work, there will be rewards. Han Yudao, who was planted by Sumo. Let's see what the situation will be tomorrow. Now I have to hide from the headquarters of the Holy See. Let me think of a way to get the best of both worlds. I'd better stay here. The protagonist named Li Fei thought of a way. This Earl of the Blackstone territory is not easy to deal with. I have an inexplicable feeling that he is more difficult to deal with than several other Duke-level villains. Han Yu said. No matter how difficult an Earl is, no Duke will be difficult to deal with. If nothing else, a Duke has many times as many private troops as an Earl. You don't have to worry too much. We'll talk about it tomorrow, and we will grow up later. It's too easy to kill him. After Li Fei comforted Han Yu, he quickly thought of a clever plan. He excitedly said, since the Earl of the Blackstone territory doesn't want us to be killed by other villains, then tomorrow morning, we will apply to go with the knights guarding him, and he will definitely agree. Is it still possible? Han Yu was stunned for a moment. This is a tall bird. How is it? Am I smart? Seeing Han Yu's expression, Li Fei was immediately convinced by his own wit. This evening, many protagonists have begun to act. In a magic academy, several protagonists acted together and walked towards the headquarters of the Holy See with a big drum. Go to a place with many people. Don't go to a dark place. Just go through the main street. There are eyeliners everywhere. A protagonist is afraid that other people will walk away, said. If they don't want to be attacked on the road, then walk in the light. Now, knights in armor can be seen everywhere in the capital. There is also a team of Royal Capital Guards patrolling. There are many people on the street. Many people got up early and headed towards the Holy See headquarters. After all, the capital is so big, they still have to walk for several hours by walking. As long as they keep walking in the light, the villains will not dare to do anything. Guy isn't coming. It's normal for him not to come. His teacher is the sanctuary. In the capital, who would dare to attack a disciple of the sanctuary? Alas, it's a pity that I may step late, otherwise, I would be able to worship under a sanctuary gate. Don't worry, it's only a few days, we have a chance. The protagonists walked along the main road, following a group of nobles towards the headquarters of the Holy See. In the crowd, many eyes have already been staring at them. The same scene is also happening in other areas. Several Duke-level villains have too many eyeliners. As the actual rulers of the Duke family, they can mobilize a lot of people. In the capital, all the protagonists' areas that they learned about were monitored by a large number of eyeliners. For example, in a steamed bun shop with a booming business, the boss and a few girls are selling steamed buns. It looks like a normal businessman. However, no one noticed that there was a little who was not very busy inside, and his eyes were always paying attention to the outside. So, soon, the actions of these protagonists were reported to several Duke-level villains. They went to the Holy See headquarters at the same time? Did they notice something? This news made several villains who had gathered together frown. If these protagonists go to the Holy See headquarters at the same time, the difficulty they want to do at the Holy See headquarters has increased a lot. No, hands-on isn't actually the biggest problem. The problem is how to get yourself out after you do it. They can guarantee that they will not be involved in the invasion of demons. Originally, some demons also like to invade after some god's blessing ceremony. But doing it at the Holy See headquarters will eventually lead to some hidden dangers. It shouldn't be. They are not so capable yet. I feel that they should be afraid that when all the attention of the capital is at the headquarters of the Holy See, we will take the opportunity to shoot. Well, it should be like this. These protagonists are all very sophisticated. After a few villains discussed, they also let go of their worries. Immediately, another problem arose. These protagonists have arrived at the headquarters of the Holy See. What will they do then? Once the demons invaded on a large scale, it would be nothing to kill a few people in chaos. In such a war, I am afraid that a lot of people at the level of Legion commanders will die. The identities of these protagonists are not high, so the problem should not be big. A Duke heir said solemnly. That's right, don't worry too much. Once the demon is killed, the entire king will be in chaos. If the sanctuary takes action, there is no trace of others to follow. It's not a big problem to get a few of them. Another Duke heir. Well, it's good for them to be together, and they can save you everywhere to look for them. However, just in case, after the demon invasion, let the gangsters you bought take the opportunity to create a little chaos in the city and make the situation worse. Make it a little messier. It is good. These villains soon made a decision. Whether it is the protagonist or the villain, each has some actions and plans. In the abyss. In an extremely huge abyss, a large number of abyss creatures and demons are still drilling into some channels. In the void above the abyss, there is a magic circle that is full of evil at first sight. The arranger of this magic circle is the long-nailed demon god. This guy first set up a magic circle on his side, so that once the blood sacrifice in the New Moon Kingdom begins, he can descend to the continent of the gods at the fastest speed. Roar. Succubus demon god, how are you preparing? The Spike demon talks to Sumo while watching his army of demons. In the Succubus dynasty, the little Spike demon god has been released. Then, through the little Spike devil, this guy saw that a large number of abyss creatures had entered a passage under the drive of the Succubus. The long-nailed demon god was relieved, as long as Sumo is out. He didn't expect Sumo to fight. All he needs is Sumo's devilish breath. In this way, you can share a lot of pressure for him. This is the mark of the magic circle. After they start the blood sacrifice, you can come over and go with me. If you have a way to pass by yourself, you can. The Spike demon god throws another light ball to Sumo. After this light group is placed in the teleportation array, it can be positioned by the mark in the light group and directly transmitted to the place where the Spike demon god is. No, I have a way to go by myself. Among the sub-magic bugs, Sumo's mental fluctuations came out. That's fine too. After the little long-nailed demon god finished speaking, it quickly turned into a letter. This guy has a lot of tricks. I really don't know where it came from. After finishing the conversation, on the other side, the long-nailed demon god muttered. After finishing the conversation with the Spike demon god, Sumo put away the female demon bug, and then withdrew the magic circle. At this time, the time has come to more than 4 in the morning. It's almost time for the appointment with the Queen of the Crescent Moon. That is 5 in the morning. The distance to the Holy See headquarters is not far from here. But the Queen of the New Moon naturally had to go earlier. Sir, hot water is coming. Arya has already called hot water, and 2 maids stepped forward and waited on Sumo to wash. In some habits, Sumo is not a maverick. He is more like a noble than the nobles of this world. Elegant, calm, and without the pedantic and old-fashioned feeling of some aristocrats, people can't help but feel good when they see it. After washing, outside, the female official sent by the queen also arrived. Sumo walked out the door. Outside, the carriage is ready. Dear Earl, please let us escort you to the Holy See headquarters. At this time, a voice sounded. When Sumo saw it, it was the 2 protagonists who spoke. Can. He didn't care, and Sumo saw through the self-righteous wit of these 2 guys at a glance. He got into the carriage. The 2 protagonists joined the guarding knights. Originally, they were not qualified to follow to the Holy See headquarters. Look, I said he would agree. The protagonist named Li Fei was proud to show off to Han Yu, and had a great sense of accomplishment. Han Yu didn't have much sense of accomplishment. On the contrary, he inexplicably felt that he and Li Fei were in front of Sumo, as if they were 2 clowns jumping on the beam. This feeling made him very uncomfortable. Damn it, we are the protagonists. There was a powerless cry in his heart. Even the Duke-level villains did not make them feel so oppressed physically and psychologically. Damn oppression. Two gorgeous carriages, under the escort of a large number of knights, walked along the main road towards the headquarters of the Holy See. The headquarters of the Holy See, the huge square below the temple, was already crowded with people. The area of a euro this square is incomparably large. You know, the pyramids floating in the sky are all behemoths with a side length of several hundred meters. The total area of a euro this square has exceeded 1 square kilometer. 1 square kilometer is equal to 1 million square meters. In other words, even if only one person stands in 1 square meter, more than 1 million people can stand in this square. 1 square meter is naturally more than one person standing, and the area of a euro this square is not exactly 1 square kilometer. After all, this square can hold almost half of the people in the capital. At this time, there were too many people in the square. These people are divided into different blocks, and there is no excessive accumulation. In the sky, the magic ship flew around, maintaining order. All the magic circles in the capital have also fully opened. Although the sky has not yet brightened, the temple has already lit up, like a small sun. Bright light illuminates the entire square, like daytime. When the Queen's carriage drove outside the square, it stopped. Need to replace an open carriage and enter the church. The carriage is pulled by several all-white unicorns, and along the way, the Queen of the Crescent can be worshipped by everyone in the kingdom. The Queen of the Crescent Moon came to the carriage in full clothes. Now, she is the Queen. Therefore, her dress is a graceful and gorgeous king's dress. I saw her phoenix crown, dignified manner, and a faint majesty on her beautiful face. This is her side of being a queen. She boarded the exclusive carriage. Her Majesty the Queen. Some people, who rarely saw the Queen of the Crescent Moon, cheered excitedly. Even in the royal capital, there are not many opportunities to see the Queen of the New Moon. Queen Crescent Moon is so beautiful, she's absolutely amazing, her looks, her temperament. Well, she's absolutely beautiful. Everyone is the protagonist. Who can get her in the future will depend on their ability. In the crowd, those protagonists have come to the square. After seeing the Queen Crescent who boarded the carriage from a distance, these protagonists chatted in the group. Such an incomparably beautiful Queen of the Crescent Moon. These protagonists who are transmigrators are naturally very tempted. In the protagonist group, they are relatively restrained. On the other hand, several Duke-level villains occupy a better position. As the heirs of the Duke, at this time, they were all by the side of the old dukes of their respective families. These old dukes are on the verge of death, and the actual power is already in their hands. There they are. The focus of these villains is different, and their focus is on the protagonists. Perhaps human beings have the instinct to keep warm in the face of a crisis, and more than a dozen of these protagonists have gathered together. Moreover, they also deliberately hid next to a group of temple knights who were not easy to mess with. There are also some protagonists who are not with them, and have found some places to hide. In the square, the voices were getting louder and louder. Now, it's time for the Queen of the Crescent Moon. It was not until she put on the costume of a saint and became a saint of God that she belonged to God. Seeing that the Queen of the New Moon boarded the carriage, a female officer was preparing to start the carriage. Slow. The Queen of the New Moon said suddenly. The lady stopped. The Queen of the Crescent Moon turned around and looked at Sumo, who had just stepped off the carriage. She reached out to Sumo and made an invitation. Mo, come with me. Hearing her words, the expressions of the surrounding female officials changed slightly, but no one said anything. The other people around looked at Sumo one after another. What? Why did Queen Crescent invite him? What kind of occasion is this? Is he an earl qualified to board that carriage? Not far away, Li Fei, the protagonist of the guards, was crazy dis Sumo on the protagonist panel. Han Yu saw Queen Crescent Moon's movements from a distance, and the feeling of not seconds in his heart became stronger and stronger. Li Fei. The Queen of the New Moon has an unusual relationship with him. If we can survive today, we should leave the capital, or even the New Moon Kingdom. If it weren't for the lack of sound in the communication on the protagonist panel, his voice. I'm afraid there will be a vibrato. No matter the protagonist in Goldfinger, their current strength is still too weak. As the queen of a powerful kingdom with a population of over 100 million and many sacred areas. For them, the Queen of the Crescent Moon has been an irresistible existence for a long time. Before they, just joining the palace guard, made several Duke-level villains dare not do it. Enough to illustrate the power of the Queen, but now the relationship between the Queen and a villain actually reached such a point. Queen, on such a high-profile occasion, openly invite Sumo to board the car with you. What this means, it couldn't be more obvious. On the carriage, the Queen Crescent looked at Sumo with clear eyes. Her actions. Even Sumo didn't expect it. Contact with the clear eyes of the Queen of the New Moon. Seeing the hidden love in her eyes. After Sumo paused for 2 seconds, finally, he stretched out his hand and took the hand of the Queen of the Crescent Moon, and then he got into the carriage. An incomparably bright smile burst into the face of Queen Crescent Moon. What if Sumo becomes a holy son later? As long as today, Sumo stands with her, sharing this much anticipated moment in the eyes of more than 1 million people. That's enough. Even if the goddess is to blame, she admits it. The unicorn pulled the gorgeous carriage and slowly walked towards the cathedral. Wow! Seeing Sumo appeared by the queen's side. Suddenly, there was an uproar in the square. He really went up. At the rear, Li Fei's eyes suddenly widened as Sumo boarded the carriage that symbolized the king's power. Sumo really went up. A dare to invite. One dare to go up. Beside him, Han Yu also widened his eyes. Mood has fallen to the valley. Li Fei, I have decided that as soon as today is over, I will leave the capital while the capital is in chaos. Han Yu confronted Li Fei on the Protagonist panel. Leaving the capital is a risky thing in itself. Now they are stared at by the villains, and once they leave, the villains will find an opportunity to do it. Their gold fingers made them much more profitable in the capital than outside. Compared with clocking in some small places outside, the rewards you get are naturally different. The more advanced they are, the more rewards they get. But the Queen of the Crescent Moon actually invited Sumo to go up. Sumo also really dared to go up. What does this mean? In Han Yu's view, it couldn't be clearer. In the past few days in the palace guard, the two of them have a deeper understanding of the king's power than other protagonists. In this case, the average male king will bring his queen. If it is the queen, she will bring her husband. With the occasional exception, the king would bring his own heir to the throne. There will be no more. Today, another exception was born. Together with the Queen of the Crescent Moon, Sumo stood on it. You know, there are millions of people here. People from half of the capital have come. These people are not ordinary people. There are a large number of nobles, large and small officials, and many celebrities and big businessmen. It can be said to be very precious. In the New Moon Kingdom, the group of people located in the upper part of the pyramid are basically there. Not only that, but it is also the headquarters of the Holy See. Even, the temple in the sky has been lit up, and the goddess said that she will cast her eyes from time to time. On such an occasion, the Queen of the Crescent Moon invited Sumo to stand with her. This attitude could not be more obvious. This is taking Sumo as her husband. Being witnessed by so many people is no joke. If the Queen of the New Moon chooses another man in the future, her prestige in the eyes of the public will probably drop by half. Because of this, after realizing this, Han Yu made this decision. He has panicked. No matter what, I must escape from the capital today. Sumo's relationship with the Queen of the New Moon has reached this stage, and he will stay in the palace again, only to find his own way. Although it was dangerous to leave the capital, but with the predicted chaos, they had a chance. At the same time, he was a little fortunate that Sumo didn't do it a few days ago. I didn't do it a few days ago. It should be because he was worried that it would affect the Queen of the New Moon's opinion of him. Han Yu quickly made up his mind about this matter that he thought was very reasonable. The Earl of Inkstone. On the other side, several Duke-level villains were also seen from a distance. Their location is very close. Several Duke-level heirs looked at each other and chatted on the villain panel. It seems that once the Queen stops being a saint, it is very likely that she wants to marry the Earl of Moshi Land. It should be like this matter should have no impact on our plan. Well, even so, this Earl of the Blackstone Land is very clever, and he quietly won the Queen of the New Moon. Tisk tisk. Queen Crescent has always been a saint, and she has never touched a man. Such a superb woman. It's really cheap for him. Several villains are very calm. Their minds have always been on their plans. Compared with their plans, this matter is not a big deal for them. As long as their plans are successful, their gains will be enormous. Given time, when they become stronger, they may unite and they may be able to be tough with the Queen. Naturally not too worried. Mountains will fall if you rely on mountains, trees will shake if you rely on trees, and everyone will run if you rely on them. As a traveler, don't you understand this? His starting point is low, and that's all he can do. It's also a skill to be able to handle the Queen, but he'd better stay out of the way. Several Duke-level villains continued to chat. When these villains were chatting, the protagonist group was already lively. Why did the Earl of the Blackstone Land stand with the Queen of the New Moon? Their relationship seems unusual. F*K, he took the Queen's hand. That's the Earl of the Blackstone Land that you talked about earlier? A euro. Many protagonists have not yet realized the seriousness of the problem. Li Fei, don't go to the group to discuss. Han Yu's eyes flashed. He was hesitant to share what he had learned with the other protagonists. It turns out that this is the reliance of the Earl of Moshi Land. No wonder, he doesn't want other villains to kill us. Originally, I was still thinking, what kind of confidence does he have as an Earl? But now it seems that his confidence is the Queen of the Crescent Moon. The very calm protagonist came out again, and calmly analyzed it. I don't know how much he can take advantage of Queen Crescent Moon. Li Fei, Han Yu, I advise you to leave the palace guard. Yes, come and join the Magic Academy. The Magic Academy is relatively independent. As long as you don't make mistakes, the Queen can't come to deal with you in person, right? As soon as the protagonist analyzed it, the other protagonists also spoke up. You didn't understand that Queen Crescent took the Earl of the Blackstone Land as her husband. After hesitating for a while, Han Yu finally shared this information. Because he felt that he and Li Fei escaped with a single goal. Talking about a few more protagonists to escape can distract the villains. I'm going to. The Queen's husband? That would be a little bad. This Earl of the Blackstone territory is a talent. The Earl is a bronze-level villain at most. He actually took care of the Queen directly. This threat level has skyrocketed. Would you like to do this? I regret coming to the capital. It would have been better if I knew that the nest would grow slowly in other places. I regret it too. Wait for a while, let's go. A euro. As soon as Han Yu shared it, many of the protagonists in the royal capital panicked. When the villains and the protagonists saw Sumo standing in the carriage, they had different reactions. Above the carriage, Sumo stood there, staring calmly ahead. Despite being watched by millions, Sumo's expression was indifferent. This is a big scene. Just a few million people. In Sumo's heart, there was not even a single wave. Beside him, the Queen of the Crescent Moon was holding Sumo's hand tightly. It's not that Sumo doesn't let go. But the Queen of the New Moon will not let go. After the uproar, the people in the square were also discussing constantly. But soon, many people recognized Sumo. It's the Earl of Moshi Land. Some people shouted, the Earl of Inkstone. 1 past 10, 10 past 100, and soon you can pass one piece. More than one who recognized Sumo. Under the spread of these people, all the people soon recognized it. Standing next to the Queen of the Crescent Moon is the famous Earl of the Blackstone Land in the Crescent Moon Kingdom. For ordinary people, there are too many nobles in the Crescent Kingdom. Not to mention earls, there are a few dukes, and what they know clearly, they are all terribly small. Not to mention the duke's name. If many dukes did not have much deeds, not many people knew their names. However, the Earl of Moshi Land is an exception. It's a household name in the Crescent Kingdom. This is also a name that makes countless people curious. In the same way, the people also held a favorable impression of the Earl of Moshi Land. Because of the various things invented by the Earl of Moshi Land and some subtle changes brought about by the New Moon Kingdom, they have benefited a lot of people. Many commoners yearn to go to the territory of the Earl of Moshi. Because it is said to have the highest salary and the best benefits in the entire Crescent Kingdom. There, even civilian children can go to school without any fees. The key is to take care of the food. Some craftsmen can be healed by magicians even if they are injured on the job. Women can also find suitable jobs, and the wages are not low. In the descriptions of the people, the territory of the Earl of Moshi is already comparable to the existence of heaven. So, in the carriage, after the news spread that the man holding hands with the Queen was the Earl of Moshi Land. The people were all excited. The Earl of the Blackstone Land. I don't know who yelled. The Earl of the Blackstone Land. Immediately, someone shouted again. The Earl of the Inkstone Land.
The Earl of the Inkstone Land. A euro.
Soon, in this square, everyone shouted. People follow the crowd. Not to mention in such an environment, then. In the entire square, the shouts of millions of people were attributed to the name of the Earl of Moshi Land. With the voices of millions of people, even the edge of the capital could be heard. Everyone was shouting. Even some nobles in the New Moon Kingdom were also driven and shouted there. Millions of people shouted one person's name in unison. It's hard to see such a scene, his reputation, so high. In the crowd, seeing that the people around were shouting for the Earl of Moshi Land, Many people even jumped up and shouted. The protagonists who gathered together were shocked by Sumo's popularity. Sky. What a prestige. Which villain would have such a reputation? Those Duke-level villains can't do it at all. Even if they climbed to a high platform that everyone could see, there were very few people who could recognize them. This Earl of the Blackstone territory. By the way, check his villain level. I just checked it, but I can't find it. It means that it is higher than us. Who is at the silver level? Check it out. Many protagonists were surprised. There are also protagonists who thought of Cha Sumo's villain level. I found it, it's silver. Unscientific, how could an Earl be silver? The extremely calm protagonist spoke up. The reason this guy is cooler is because he has a higher gold finger level. His words suddenly stirred up 1,000 waves. Silver rank. Is there a mistake? I see on the forum that a fallen Earl villain killed by the protagonist is a black iron rank. That is the fallen Earl, and the normal Earl should be bronze without exception. F***ck. This is too magical. It's like a passerby suddenly became a big boss. Hey. A silver level Earl, although there are still a few silver level ones in the capital, I suddenly feel that this Earl of the Blackstone country is probably the biggest boss in the New Moon Kingdom. In the square, because the villain level of Sumo was found out, these protagonists were not calm. The protagonist does have more privileges in the early stage. It's like, in the early stage, the villain has no villain value. But the protagonist has 1 protagonist value. This 1-point value of the protagonist can be used to check the level of a nearby villain. Each protagonist has 1 chance, so in general, they don't use them indiscriminately. The silver level protagonist will have 1 more protagonist value, that is, there are 2 chances. If there is a gold level protagonist, there will be 3 protagonist points at the beginning, and 1 more chance. Of course, it doesn't matter if any protagonist kills a villain in the first place and gets 100 protagonist value. In the protagonist group, it was completely lively. Listening to what you guys said, I won't come to the capital. The New Moon Kingdom is so big, I can grow a nest wherever I go. That's right, I'm not coming. Some of the protagonists who have joined the group and have not yet arrived in the capital are very happy. Went straight home. I still don't understand how an Earl can be a silver level villain. Silver level villains are basically Duke level, and there are very few Marquis level villains. This world is strictly hierarchical. No matter how rich the Earl is, in terms of hard power, it is impossible to surpass the Duke. Even the Marquis rarely surpasses. He should have some hidden strength. I said long ago that there is something wrong with the Earl of Moishi Land. He invented those things too early. Several protagonists discussed the matter, and other protagonists soon joined in. You said, he is a silver rank, will he be promoted after killing the protagonist? At this time, a protagonist suddenly came. As soon as this sentence came out, the group of protagonists instantly became quiet. Impossible. Then, the protagonist replied with 3 words. To upgrade from bronze to silver, you have to kill 5 protagonists. It's only been over 10 days, and the protagonists are scattered. How could he kill 5 protagonists in such a short time? Yes, and if the villain wants gold finger, he has to consume the villain value to get our gold finger, and the upgrade progress is even slower. The other protagonists quickly replied. They have rejected this possibility. Because, when the protagonist came to this sentence just now, the hearts of these protagonists were subconsciously tense. The eyelids couldn't help but jump. This guess. It's so scary. Even, as an Earl, it was even more terrifying to have silver level strength than the Earl of Mo Shilling. The level of the villain at the beginning depends on the strength brought by the identity after crossing. At the beginning, there were not many villains with silver level strength in the judgment, and there were not too many. A few Duke level villains in the capital, aren't they all? But in the past 10 days, these Duke level villains, at the very beginning, got a few careless protagonists. Evenly divided, no one can be divided into 1. There are still a lot of villains. In the past 10 days, it is estimated that 1 or 2 protagonists have also been killed. Any more, never heard of it. So, just be careful, silver level villains are actually not scary. But what if the Earl of Moishi territory was a bronze level villain at the beginning and killed a silver level villain all the way? Moreover, in just a few days, he killed 4 or 5 protagonists and rose to the silver level villain. How? How scary would this be? Some protagonists subconsciously feel that it is impossible. Because of this, it is difficult for silver level villains to do it. Time is too short. Not to mention, in the past few days, the Earl of Moishi Land has been in the capital. Apart from getting the provocative protagonist at the beginning, there is no other action. In this case, if this speculation comes true, didn't the Earl of the Blackstone Land kill several other protagonists in the first 3 or 4 days? How powerful does the Earl of the Blackstone Land have to be? The question is, why was the powerful Earl of the Blackstone Land judged to be a bronze-level protagonist in the first place? This is where the contradiction comes. This contradiction can't be resolved. The Earl of Moshi territory cannot be upgraded by killing the protagonist. In this way, he should have hidden strength. After a protagonist analyzed these contradictions, he said, "It doesn't matter, anyway, today, no matter what, I want to escape from the capital while the chaos." There are protagonists who have no intention of discussing. He is not afraid of other silver-level villains. But now, the Earl of Mo Shilling made him feel flustered inexplicably. The protagonist was uneasy, and he vaguely felt that terrible guess, maybe it was true. The Earl of the Blackstone territory, I am afraid that it really depends on killing the protagonist to level up. He wasn't even interested in discussing it. Not only him. In the square, some other protagonists lost interest in discussing and closed the protagonist panel one after another. They were equally disturbed. Originally, what they were most prepared for were the Duke-level villains. But now, the Earl of the Blackstone Land became the biggest threat in their hearts. They are starting to realize. This Earl of Moshi Land, who has been doing nothing since he has secured a protagonist since he came to the capital. I'm afraid, there is also a wave of attacks that they can't imagine. Otherwise, why would the Earl of Moshi Land deliberately imply them? These protagonists are not stupid. After trying to understand these key points one by one, their faces became more and more gloomy. It was in stark contrast to the surrounding people who cheered the name of the Count of the Blackstone Land. If we want to control the New Moon Kingdom in the future, this Earl of the Blackstone Land must be removed. When the protagonists are worried one by one, several Duke-level villains see the problem from different angles. Naturally, they can't check Sumo's villain level. One by one, they are still discussing this matter in a condescending manner from the perspective of the overall controller. The ambitions of these Duke-level villains are naturally not small. Getting these protagonists in the capital at one time is only their first step. After it is done, after dividing up the gold finger and villain values a euro of the protagonists, they will further enhance their strength with their own resources. The second step is to eliminate the protagonist in the New Moon Kingdom, and the villain value obtained in this way can also be used to improve the gold finger level. Also removes threats. The internal threat of the kingdom is relatively greater. Even if the protagonists in other kingdoms grow up, to a certain extent, it is difficult to go to other kingdoms to make trouble. This is the same as before crossing. Even if you are in Longguo again and again, if you go to northern Myanmar, if you are not careful, you will still be beaten. Maybe it's the kind that doesn't take narcotics. Unless, your strength is so powerful that you can make a kingdom jealous of you. Or the enemy you deal with, just a small character. Their third step, of course, is to control the entire New Moon Kingdom, either openly or secretly.
Once you have control of the Crescent Kingdom, you can start the fourth step.
The fourth step is to march into the world of the gods. The plans of these guys are very detailed, because of this. With such prestige in the New Moon Kingdom, the Earl of the Blackstone Land, who was also favored by the Queen, was a thorn in their eyes. In particular, the Earl of Moshi Land has never meant to join them. Not only did he not join, it seemed that he wanted to start another stove. The Earl of the Inkstone Land. The Earl of the Inkstone Land, in the square, the shouting of the people was still going on. Crowd mania. A Duke-level villain snorted softly and said. In his eyes, these people are too stupid. One by one fell into the crowd frenzy. On the carriage, the Queen of the Crescent Moon held Sumo's hand tightly. Suddenly, she made another bold decision. She held Sumo's hand and raised Sumo's hand high. This time, the cheers of the people grew louder. In the whole square, the sound waves went straight to the sky, and even the clouds in the sky were washed away. Finally, the carriage that Sumo and Queen Crescent took to the cathedral below the temple. In front of the cathedral, there is already a very large platform. All those who are eligible to be blessed by the goddess will go to this platform. Cardinal Phelan was already waiting there with other bishops, as well as high-ranking clergy in the Holy See. He had already seen the actions of the Queen Crescent Moon. At the beginning, Bishop Farron's eyelids also twitched, and the other bishops behind him coughed lightly. You know, the current Queen of the New Moon is still a saint. Although it is already in the process of stepping down. This is out of line. Don't cough, I'm not blind. The Earl of Mo Shilling is the one who the goddess has given to the Holy Order, so that's it. Bishop Farron brought this matter to light in one sentence. It's already like this, what else can he say? If it was someone else, he would be displeased too, but Sumo is different. The goddess of the new moon has focused on it. According to Bishop Farron's speculation, Sumo may have become the son of God. Holy son and holy daughter holding hands. Seems. That makes sense. Bishop Phelan comforted himself in this way. The carriage has arrived. Several maids came, and with their help, Queen Crescent and Sumo got out of the car. The cheers in the square finally subsided. Queen, Count, please. Bishop Farron made a gesture of invitation. The Queen of the Crescent Moon is going in to change her clothes. Bishop Farron naturally couldn't leave Sumo outside. After entering the cathedral, accompanied by several maids, Queen Crescent went to a special dressing room. Bishop Phelan accompanied Sumo. The Earl's spirit is good. For today's blessing, the goddess will definitely pay attention to the Earl. Bishop Farron and Sumo chatted casually. After about half an hour, finally, Queen Crescent came out wearing a simple yet extremely refreshing and holy saintess costume. Accompanied by some nuns, the Queen of the Crescent Moon stepped to the middle of the high platform and prayed there. As she played, the light emitted by the temple slowly changed. In the sky, there seemed to be music. There are also a lot of flowers falling from the sky. The blessing ceremony has officially begun. Colorful petals, falling from the sky. The sky of the whole temple square suddenly turned into a sea of a euro flowers. Floral fragrance. Everyone's spirit is lifted. Wow. In the temple square, many women, wow. Really, this scene is too gorgeous. Is this the power of God? In the square, the protagonists raised their heads and looked into the sky. They simply can't see where the petals come from. These petals seem to be born naturally. With the rhythm that can make people feel happy, it slowly grows in the air, and then slowly falls. Although many of them have come into contact with magic, or the power of vindictiveness. The strength in magic is already considered okay. Basically, it is the first glimpse of the mysteries of the magical world. But this scene is still beyond their understanding. These protagonists, for a moment, all forgot their worries, put down their worries, raised their heads, and watched the petals fall like raindrops. Several Duke-level villains also temporarily stopped chatting in the group. They all raised their heads and looked into the sky. In the sky, the petals are still falling. Finally, the petals fell down. Some people have already raised their toes and stretched out their hands. I saw a petal fall on a woman's hand. It smells so good. The woman brought the petals to her nose and sniffed. In the fragrance of the flowers, the petals turned into an incomparably warm energy that entered the woman's body. This woman's whole body, a warm feeling rose up. The state of the body has improved faintly. This feeling is so wonderful. Not just her. There are too many petals. In the square, all the people raised their toes, stretched out their hands, and grabbed these petals. This is the general blessing of the goddess at the beginning of the blessing. People in the entire square can get a little bit of it. Equivalent to divine light. Everyone who gets the petals gets some benefit. Then, they will not begrudge their praise for the new moon goddess. It's amazing. I feel that my anxiety has been reduced a lot. The power of divinity in this petal, displayed on such a large scale, the god of this world. Really powerful. In the protagonist group, after a protagonist touched the petals, he sighed there. Yeah, the power of God is amazing. Everyone, we are all protagonists. As long as we don't die, one day we will be able to aspire to the throne. Another protagonist said. Aspiring to the throne. These 4 words made the protagonists in this protagonist group excited one by one. The blood in the whole body could not help boiling. Become a god, how can it be so easy? If it was before crossing, no matter how good they were, they wouldn't have any chance. Even among the people in this world, among the countless creatures, very few can eventually become gods. It is not enough to accurately describe the small probability of becoming a god. But they are all protagonists. Everyone has a gold finger. These gold fingers allow them to have an extraordinary growth rate. The point is, as long as the level of gold finger is improved, they will not face the bottleneck faced by people in this world. For example, some people have been in the legendary realm for many years with one card, and they can't break through the sanctuary for life. Some people are stuck in the sanctuary for life. With their gold finger, they can ignore these bottlenecks. They all have the opportunity to become powerful gods. Worshipped by countless people, have great power. Sitting and enjoying a long life. I thought that one day, after they became gods, they could sit leisurely on the bright throne. Taste the wine of heaven, with the most perfect goddess. Looking down on all beings. Just a little bit of power can make millions of people cheer for them. Sing their praises aloud. Their hearts surged again. What an exciting scene that is. For a while. In the protagonist group, no one spoke, obviously. That scene was so intoxicating. They are all addicted to it. After a few minutes, the group of protagonists began to liven up. Masters, the biggest gain from coming to the Holy See headquarters this time has allowed me to see the limitlessness of this world. Yeah, I was worried at first, but now I have infinite fighting spirit. What are a few Duke-level villains, and what are the counts of Moishi land? When he was waiting for me to become a god, looking back, they were just some small stepping stones. Well said. As the protagonists, we were too timid in the past, but we can't blame us, who gave the villain a greater advantage, but in the future, we will not. Yes, but we can't be too contemptuous. The power of the villains cannot be ignored. Let us take them as our sharpening stones. Villains can't kill us, they only make us stronger. Wait until the 8th of August next year, I will bloom and kill 100 flowers. Kill, kill, kill. Haha, I hope in the future, we can join hands to become gods and stand at the top of the world together. However, this time, the liveliness among the protagonists was completely different. If a person who does not know the situation comes in, he may feel that he has entered a positive energy group that shouts slogans every day. Because, after seeing the power of God, these protagonists were all excited. They have new ambitions, that is, become a god with supreme power. For them, as long as they don't die, it's not too difficult. Even if they are still weak. But with the help of Goldfinger, the probability of them becoming gods is much greater than that of people in this world. According to Sumo's understanding of Goldfinger, in theory, every protagonist or villain with a gold-level Goldfinger has the possibility of becoming a god. And if Goldfinger can be upgraded to above the gold level, it is almost a sure thing to become a god. Just to see if you can live and grow up to that time. After all, other protagonists or villains will definitely hunt you down. In front of this ambition, the obstacles brought by several villains seem so insignificant. Then, these protagonists, who were still in a low mood before, have regained their spirits again. In the protagonist group, a solution was discussed. These protagonists are serious this time. It's not a one-time hit, or inferior chicken blood. They are not blindly confident, but carefully analyzed. The first thing they analyzed was why the capital fell into chaos. However, they got too little information to analyze. Han Yu, haven't you seen more of your prophecy? Can you use it again? A protagonist asked. No, the use of prophecy is limited, and it takes several days to use the CD once. Han Yu, who was still influenced by the illusion, said. No matter how the chaos is caused, the Duke-level villains will definitely take advantage of the chaos. Although this is the headquarters of the Holy See, we have to be careful. Well, according to what Han Yu predicted, it will be fine for the time being at the Holy See headquarters, so what we are discussing now is whether the next plan is to escape from the capital or stay here. Me and Li Fei must flee, or we will die if we stay in the palace guard. I won't run away, I want to stay in the Holy See, and I will be able to join the official temple knights immediately. As long as I'm not as arrogant as Tang Hua, the Earl of Moishi will not have a good way to take me. I'm not going to run away either. My Goldfinger can grow the fastest in the Magic Academy. I have to face difficulties. Of course, I'll talk about it later today. Then you stay in the royal capital, I'm still going to sneak away for the respect. A euro, the protagonists discussed it one by one. After being aroused with great ambitions and having the ambition to become a god, some protagonists also thought of staying in the capital. Especially those protagonists who are valued in the Holy See and the Academy of Magic. There are also protagonists who are still ready to escape. There are also protagonists who are ready to wait and see the situation. God's power. In the area of a euro, the nobles, several Duke-level villains are also chatting. Compared to those protagonists, they appear much more composed. They also naturally yearn for the power of God, but now they are more concerned with the success or failure of their plans. According to the experience of previous years, the blessing ceremony will end before noon, and when it is about to end, you can act. Well, don't worry, I'll make arrangements. When, after the rain of petals, a long bell rang throughout the square. The believers take the stage. Immediately afterwards, a bishop's voice sounded. Then, in the crowd, Those devout believers who were qualified to participate in the blessing ceremony began to ascend to the high platform in the middle under the envious gazes of everyone around them. Not all of these believers are of high status. In fact, there are quite a few civilians inside. These civilians are all in the area where they live, such as the famous devout believers. For example, an aunt in her 60s, it is said that she set off a year ago when she came to the capital this time. Walk the whole way, kneel at 3 steps, and bow at 9 steps. Even some vicious robbers dare not hit her idea. There are also places where there are very pious and respected old people. Many of these elderly people live longer. This is because they have also received the blessing of the goddess before, and their lifespans are much longer than others. And in good spirits. Their existence can effectively stabilize some places, and can also increase the piety of believers in a small area. Goda Euro's blessings are naturally selective. In contrast, among these groups, the number of magicians is much smaller. There are more knights and magicians, especially the Knights Templar. In Sumo's view, this is probably because the more you understand the mysteries of the world, the less likely it is to be devout. That is for sure. You have the possibility of becoming a god. Are you still devoted to other gods? It is more difficult for knights to increase their strength, and it is also more difficult to become gods, and knights pay attention to chivalry. Very loyal and different. As for magicians, their powers themselves largely come from gods. It is very different from a magician who likes to explore the mysteries of the world and investigate the essence of the world. Also, there is a big difference between piety and loyalty. The God of the heavens needs the piety of the believer in order to be able to produce faith. In the abyss, the most important and most valuable thing is loyalty. Loyalty, surrendered to great power or out of fear, is also loyalty. Myers, help me up. An old voice sounded. Yes, Father. Miles, who was wearing a noble robe, helped an old man up. This old man is an old duke. The old duke is very old and has long since given up, and handed over all power to Miles. He is also the one with the strongest comprehensive strength among the silver-level villains. Miles supported the old duke and stepped onto the high platform. Obviously, the old duke also got the opportunity to enjoy the blessing, which can make him live a few more years. Several other old dukes did not have this opportunity. It doesn't mean that you are aristocrats, you must have a chance. In particular, after some nobles sat up, they were faintly sluggish. But it is not enough to not give a quota, and it cannot appease the entire noble class. So, Miles' father got it. Some nobles also got it. As for Miles himself, and didn't get it. Finally, Miles helped the old duke to the high platform. Then, he was stunned. Because, Sumo was passing by him, towards the center of the high platform. He also qualified. Miles was a little surprised, and then he realized that it was probably the qualification given by the Queen of the New Moon. Seeing that Sumo didn't even look at him, Miles felt a little unhappy in his heart. Although everyone is a traveler, but after crossing, you have to follow the rules after crossing. He is the heir to the Duke, and the one he supports is also the old Duke. But Sumo didn't even say hello. Thanks to him, his heart to win over Sumo was still so strong. Sooner or later pull out your nail, Miles thought after helping the old Duke to a position near the center. Myers, the Earl of Moishi Land, actually sat in the middle. When Miles returned, he made a new discovery. Sumo actually lived in the center of the high platform. There is the position of the Queen of the Crescent Moon. Sumo's position is almost next to the Queen of the Crescent Moon. Even Cardinal Phelan was on their periphery. This soft meal is delicious, tisk tisk. A Duke heir is sour. What's so special? They don't even have the chance to enjoy the blessing. As a result, Sumo, by virtue of the identity of the Queen of the New Moon and the Holy Maiden, actually reached the core position in one fell swoop. He is not sour to be a ghost. In his capacity, he certainly couldn't get in touch with the secrets of the Holy Sea's core, and he didn't know that Sumo was not the Queen of the Crescent Moon by virtue of taking that position. Look at the position of the Earl of Moshi. The Queen of the Crescent Moon is so good to him. Damn it. Even if I get the Queen in the future, it will not be complete. In the protagonist group, some protagonists are also sour. As for ordinary people, they don't take it seriously, and they all like it. In this way, after more than an hour, all those who were eligible to participate in the blessing ceremony sat on the high platform. For this blessing, these people bathed and changed their clothes before they set off. Many people do not eat or drink water for a day, just to keep their bodies clean. With so many people and such a wide range of blessings, after the blessing is over, it must be difficult for the new moon goddess to come in a short period of time. A Duke heir looked at the dense crowd on the high platform and sneered in the group. When the long bell rang again. Immediately after. In the sky, a lot of holy light hangs down. It's about to start. Everyone cheered up. I saw that those holy lights quickly gathered together to form a bright beam of light. What? This situation has never happened before, and some people opened their eyes and watched. Then they see an angel with a pair of pure white wings, dressed in white armor, with a holy breath surging on his body, slowly descended from the beam of light. Wow! When seeing this angel come, all the people, wow! Angel. Did the goddess of the new moon notice something, and came to the angel in advance? When this angel appeared, the expressions of several villains changed. At this time, Miles' eyes moved. He received news from the sanctuary in the family. The breath is not very strong, and at most it can maintain a demigod's combat power for a period of time. The purpose of the arrival should be mainly to shock. Don't worry too much, the power of the devil is not something she can handle. Miles quickly sent Sanctuary's observations to the group, so that the hearts of the other villains settled down. It shouldn't be a big problem. If the goddess of the new moon notices the abnormality, it is impossible for only one angel to descend. In the villain group, a few words from Miles made the other villains settle their minds. In the sanctuary of the Miles family, after realizing the approximate strength of this angel, they were not too worried. Now they belong on the arrow, had to post. Even if the new moon goddess noticed the abnormality, they could only continue the blood sacrifice and open the channel for the devil to come. I'll go. Is that an angel? This aura is so powerful, as soon as you appear on the stage, you have a feeling of shocking the audience. If God comes in person, will it still be worth it? These long legs. Tisk tisk, I will become a god in the future, and I will also get some angels. In the protagonist group, because of the arrival of the angel, it became lively again. As for many ordinary people, they have already begun to worship.
In the sky, after the angel descended, the holy light disappeared.
This angel was dressed in white armor all over his body, and also had a helmet on his head. Can't see her face. However, that graceful figure, plus a pair of long legs, and that hair, showed her female identity. After she came, she did not fall, but with a slight movement of her right hand, a soft light appeared beside her. This soft light enveloped her, formed the appearance of a crescent moon. This crescent moon hangs in the air, and the light it emits blocks the light of the sun that has risen in the air. At this point, for the millions of people in this square, the sun no longer exists. It is the moon that illuminates the whole world. Little angel. On the high platform, Sumo also glanced at the angel in the sky, and then withdrew his gaze. The new moon goddess sent an angel to sit in town, and it did not exceed Sumo's expectations. So, that's fine. Otherwise, once the long-nailed demon god suddenly appeared, the current power of the new Moon King capital would not be able to stop it. Even if it is suppressed, the long-nailed demon god has the power of a pseudo-god. 3 demigod-level powers can block it, Sumo thought. There is a demigod in the crescent capital itself, and the Queen Crescent can be considered a demigod after gaining the power of the goddess. Plus this little angel. It's enough to block the long-nailed devil. All this is under Sumo's plan and control. When, immediately after the angel came, another long bell rang again. In the sky, a white holy light began to fall. On the high platform, everyone was enveloped by the white holy light. The blessing ceremony officially started. The entire blessing ceremony, the official blessing time, is actually not long. The preparation time in front of it took a lot of time. The official blessing lasted for an hour in total. The blessing of the goddess is not a direct installation, but a blessing to the devout believers in a silent way. Or make their bodies tougher. Or boost their physical vitality so they can live longer. Or cure all diseases in them. For some knights and the like, it may also increase their strength and allow them to break through the bottleneck. Such a blessing ceremony consumes a lot of money. The gains are also not small. After each wave of blessing ceremonies, the piety of the believers in the entire kingdom will rise by 1 level. The new moon goddess can also gain more faith. White holy light shrouded. Sumo felt that his body was in a warm state. An energy with a divine breath was pouring into his body. This energy is extremely pure, giving Sumo the feeling that it is the energy after diluting the divine power. So, there is such a good effect. Under the nourishment of this energy, Sumo can feel that every cell in his body is benefiting. The power of the celestial gods comes from all living beings to a large extent, so the feedback can also nourish all things. Sumo thought. Sumo felt the blessing of the new moon goddess, and began to quietly introduce some of the energy into his hidden succubus bloodline. Last time, he didn't do it because all the attention of the new moon goddess was on him. This time is naturally different, so many people, Sumo is careful, there will be no problem. At this moment, new changes appeared. In the sky, a brighter holy light appeared and slowly fell. The size of the holy light represents who the goddess cares more about. Seeing this holy light appear, everyone watching became curious. They all want to know who is the lucky one this time. Then, they know. It's Sumo. The holy light enveloped Sumo. It's the Earl of Moishi, and the goddess has blessed the Earl of Moshi. In the crowd, someone shouted. Originally, when the initial blessing began, the holy light that enveloped Sumo was not small. Now, the goddess of the new moon is paying more attention to Sumo. A blessing to Sumo alone. Such extra care is rarely seen in every blessing ceremony. Some who also watched the last blessing ceremony a few years ago quickly discovered that this time the goddess of the new moon gave Sumo an extra blessing far more than before. That holy light is not only brighter, but also larger in diameter, covering Sumo's whole person. Even, Sumo received more blessings alone than the queen of the crescent moon. This also means more divine favors. Even the goddess has recognized the Earl of Moishi land. So, is the Earl of Moshi land soon to become the queen's husband? 35. Some people speculate. In the kingdom, it seems that only the Earl of the Blackstone land is worthy of our queen. Yeah, other nobles, even the heirs of the Duke family, are eclipsed in front of the Earl of Moshi land. That's great. The Earl of Moshiling has become the queen's husband. In the future, our kingdom will definitely be better. It would be great if the Earl of the Blackstone land could further become a king. 46 in the square. Seeing that Sumo was blessed by the goddess of the new moon, and received more blessings from the gods, the people started talking. Their understanding of the matter is simple. That is, the goddess of the crescent moon most likely endorsed Sumo. Agreed to Sumo to become the queen's husband. So, send additional blessings to show God's favor. Naturally, they liked it. Many civilians even hoped that Sumo can become the actual master of the kingdom. They were all envied by the prosperity of Sumo's domain. It's not that easy to go to Sumo's territory. Many commoners belonged to the subjects of different nobles, and it was not that simple to 633 to break away from that noble. There are also a large number of free people, but the conditions for joining the Sumo territory are not generally harsh. But what if Sumo became the actual master of the kingdom? In the eyes of these commoners, maybe the entire kingdom can become as prosperous as Sumo's domain. This is the charm of the Earl of the Blackstone land in the Crescent Kingdom. Even if Sumo wants to be king now, there is a large number of people in favor. Even the goddess of the new moon gave him extra blessings, FCK. This should also be because of Queen Crescent Moon? It should be. These people around are saying that, but there may also be some hidden secrets that we don't know. Wufan, didn't you see him in the core area of a Euro the Holy See that day? Did you hear any news? No, I'm just a library sweeper. How can I get access to the core news? 35. 66 At this time, in the Protagonist group, the protagonists also discussed this matter one after another. Many protagonists are a little puzzled when they see the additional blessing of the new moon goddess to Sumo. Vaguely, they felt that things might not be as simple as the people around them said. But they couldn't find any other reason. Perhaps, because of the request of the Queen of the New Moon, the goddess seems to have publicly recognized the Earl of Moshi land, and if nothing else, the Earl of Moshi land is the man of the Queen who is a sure thing. A protagonist said sour and envious. Who wouldn't want to be the man who became the Queen of the Crescent Moon? If he could become the man of the Queen of the New Moon, at this stage, which villain would dare to touch him? On the other side, several Duke-level villains naturally saw this scene. Myers, I suggest taking this opportunity to deal with the Earl of Moishi land, otherwise, he may become our confidant in the future. It's important to solve the protagonist. As for the Earl of Moshi land, it depends on the situation. If it can be solved, it will be solved. Several villains have secretly thought of getting rid of Sumo. On the high platform, after the new moon goddess intensified the blessing, Sumo felt that the divine energy entering the body further increased. He sat there motionless, absorbing part of this energy. The other part was quietly sent into the succubus bloodline. Soon, Sumo discovered that his succubus blood was devouring these divine energies frantically. While swallowing, it is also quickly parsed. Divine energy is rapidly disappearing. The succubus bloodline is still deeply hidden. There is only a thin thread, which continuously transmits energy into it. I don't know what will change. 35 Sumo is curious. He also doesn't know what the next stage of the evolution of the succubus bloodline is. The succubus bloodline, in the abyss, was not originally a very high bloodline. The strength of the succubus is not weak among the demons, but it is definitely not the strongest group. However, Sumo's succubus bloodline has evolved many times. Almost reached a ceiling. That is, there is no way to get in. It is absolutely impossible to replace it with another succubus to reach his current bloodline level. Sumo has long been on a road that no succubus has ever traveled. And now, this road will produce new changes. What exactly will change, Sumo himself has no idea at all. Seeing that the succubus lineage was still devouring the divine energy blessed by the goddess of the new moon, Sumo quietly changed the utilization ratio of divine energy. Half and half. Half is used to nourish the body. Half of them are all given to the succubus blood. If it is possible, he will choose to send all the divine energy into the succubus bloodline. However, that was too obvious. There is a possibility that the goddess of the new moon noticed the abnormality. This is doing things under the nose of the new moon goddess. There's nothing wrong with being cautious. On the high platform, time passed slowly, and the holy light enveloped Sumo, gradually and continuously delivered gentle and extremely soft energy. Sumo absorbs these energies unceremoniously. What he is doing now is unprecedented. In the abyss, no demon has ever been able to do it. A powerful devil can actually make a goddess in the heavens willingly bless him. If this is replaced by any demon god, after returning, they will have to blow it up. While Sumo absorbs it, he also silently analyzes the power of the new moon goddess. Although the energy of blessing is very thin compared to divine power. But through analysis, you can also glimpse some of the mysteries of the goddess of the new moon. Divine power, one of the core secrets of God. The power of different gods is completely different. For the gods of the heavens, if there is a hostile god who completely deciphers the secret of your divine power, then, before the battle begins, you are half lost. Sumo also did not make it too obvious to avoid being noticed by the new moon goddess. If the goddess of the new moon blessed Sumo alone, the probability of detecting it would be higher. Fortunately, there are tens of thousands of people here. In the square, millions of people watched and talked in a low voice. The protagonists continue to discuss countermeasures. He is also trying his best to prevent accidents. Time goes on. Several heirs of the Duke looked at the time more often. There are 10 minutes left, it's almost over. Well, at the last minute, notify those demons, let the demon army move first, absorb enough attention, and then carry out the blood sacrifice. It is good. Several villains discussed. Seeing that the blessing ceremony is coming to an end, and the plan is about to be launched, even they can't help but feel a little nervous. 50 minutes passed. On the high platform, Sumo absorbed a lot of divine energy from Goddess Crescent Moon. The succubus blood is still being absorbed continuously. Like a bottomless pit. With such a long period of absorption, the succubus bloodline has finally changed. This change, in Sumo's view, is quite strange. That is, the blood of the succubus actually began to show the characteristics of the sacred. For now, it's just a feature, because the bloodline has not completed the transformation. So, if I complete this evolution, my succubus bloodline will become an unprecedented sacred succubus bloodline? Sumo thought. Holy succubus bloodline. The combination of these words seems a little out of place. Succubus is the devil. Succubus blood is demon blood. Devil and the word holy are not related by nature. Sacred, this is a power characteristic that belongs to the heavenly realm. But, now, Sumo's succubus bloodline has divine features too. If this is to be said, I'm afraid, even in the abyss, the Zeon represented by that round of blood moon will not believe it, right? Doesn't this mean that if Sumo's succubus bloodline has really completed the transformation and has both sacred properties, he can rely on the succubus bloodline to possess the two powers of heaven and abyss? Moreover, these two powers will be perfectly blended together. This is not a switch, but fusion. Sumo hides the succubus bloodline and reveals the human bloodline, which is a bloodline switch. The two bloodlines are still incompatible. However, once the succubus bloodline has sacred properties, it is fusion. Authentic fusion. Sumo can completely rely on the succubus blood to master the divine power. Light and dark, all in one. If this were true, Sumo could walk a path that no god has ever traveled. If this becomes, the highest throne can be expected. As a demon god, Sumo naturally sees a bright future in this path. The future is bright, but there are also risks. Because once Sumo's sacred succubus bloodline is discovered by other demons, there will probably be more demons coveting him than ever before. There will also be an unprecedented number of heavenly spirits coveting him. If you want to ascend to the highest throne, how can you be safe, peaceful? Sumo wasn't worried. On the contrary, he is on this road. If this is true, it goes on like this, it doesn't seem like enough. Sumo thought. That is, although the goddess of the new moon has stepped up her blessing on Sumo. However, the energy he absorbed was still not enough to complete the transformation of the succubus bloodline. Sumo can understand why this is the case. The goddess of the crescent moon is a blessing augmented by the standard that Sumo is a human being. With the advanced level of the succubus bloodline, these sacred energies are really not enough. According to Sumo's estimation, if you want to complete the further evolution of the succubus bloodline, I am afraid that such a blessing ceremony will have to be done several times. The blessing ceremony is not held every year, so how long do you have to wait? Fortunately, you guys have helped me. 39 Sumo showed a small smile. The blessing ceremony is not enough, but Sumo has a way. The big moves of these villains indirectly helped Sumo. Let Sumo be confident enough to get more divine energy from the crescent moon goddess. Spikes, I hope you will be stronger later. Sumo looked in one direction. The demon army under the command of the long-nailed demon god should be about to start. Time goes on. Soon, it was only a few minutes before the end of the blessing ceremony. The ceremony is almost over, everyone cheers up. The protagonists are all nervous. Because, in Han Yu's prophecy, as soon as the blessing ceremony was over, the capital fell into chaos. Come on, there's only 1 minute left. The villains are also a little nervous. In the sky, the descending angel was still like a crescent moon, hanging there, without any awareness. Move me all. 99 at this time. Around the capital, a large number of demons had already gathered in the magic circles that were used for concealment. There are too many of these demons. The magic circle itself is not particularly large, and its only function is to cover up the movement. If someone passes through the area of a euro the magic circle, they will not notice any abnormality. It is like this magic circle full of demons and abyss creatures, which is a circle with a diameter of more than 100 meters. The area is about 10,000 square meters. If it is a human, this area can squeeze tens of thousands of people. But the devil is different, because demons can fly. In this magic circle, from the ground to the sky, it is already densely packed with demons and abyss creatures. Its number, at least several 100,000. And there is more than one such magic circle around the capital. In other areas, there are also several magic circles. In one of the magic circles, the succubuses waited quietly with a large number of servant demons. Time goes by little by little. 1 minute passed quickly. There is only 1 minute left before the blessing ceremony ends. On the temple square, some people were completely unaware of what was about to happen. In a small town outside the capital, a person burned a letter after receiving a message. With his burn, time is up. As he was burned, the demons under the command of the spiked demon god roared. Immediately after, in all the magic circles, all the demonic auras exploded. All of a sudden, the magic circle that was about to disappear was smashed. Then, these demons flapped their wings, roared, and rushed towards the capital from several directions at the same time. When these demons moved, a strong demonic aura rose into the sky. The sky around the capital seemed to be covered with a layer of gray. Mom, what is that? In a small town outside the capital, a little boy playing outside saw the changes in the sky and called out to his mother. His mother turned her head and saw that in the sky, densely packed demons appeared. The devil, it's the devil, my God, let's get in the house. 99. The little boy's mother was terrified. In the small town, everyone found the devil very quickly and hid in their houses in a panic. But those demons had no intention of wasting time in this small town, and flew straight to the capital. At their speed, it won't take long at all. The Shengguang instrument has changed. Such a strong demonic breath, demonic invasion, hurry up, sound the alarm. Holy See headquarters. There was a panicked voice of a cleric. Woo, immediately afterwards, a piercing alarm sounded throughout the capital. In the sky, the angel in the crescent moon has already revealed his figure. She looked around and saw the incomparably strong demonic aura around the capital. Her eyes, for one. The next second, she turned into a beam of light, slammed into one direction. What's the situation? Why did the alarm sound? Come, come. The chaos in the capital of the prophecy is coming. 35. Everyone, be careful. Try to lean towards the position of the temple knights. The protagonists, who were already vigilant, realized one after another. Chaos in the capital was predicted to come. The villains take advantage of the chaos and attack them. However, they still don't know what happened. Haha. Let's start. Success or failure. This is all in one fell swoop. 99. On the high platform, a few villains looked from a distance to the more than 10 protagonists who had heard the alarm from the capital, with a strong killing intent in their eyes. Saint, the devil is attacking. There are at least several million. On the high platform, the Queen of the Crescent Moon quickly received the news. The new Moon Queen's expression changed. Millions of demons are coming. Sky. The new Moon Kingdom has not encountered such a level of demonic invasion for many years. She looked up at the sky, and she could already see the permeating demonic aura around the capital. Just from the demonic aura that covered the sky, you can see how amazing the number of demons this wave has attacked. These demons came over without a sound. Where did they come from? Now, though, is not the time to think about it. Fortunately, we were well prepared, and the goddess also descended the divine envoy ahead of time. Beside, Bishop Farron was also shocked by the scale of the demon, but he was not too worried. Due to the discovery of demons before, the guarding power of the royal capital has already been strengthened a lot. They have also prepared the ceremony long ago, and let the goddess of the new moon descend an angel ahead of schedule. Coupled with the defensive strength of the capital itself, Bishop Farron thinks it is not difficult to defend. Mo, stay by my side, I will send a team of knights to protect you. 99. The Queen of the Crescent Moon quickly turned around and said to Sumo. As a saint, at critical moments, she can also carry the power of the new moon goddess, exerting a demigod-level combat power in a short period of time. Kathy, send someone to evacuate the crowd, it's too risky for so many people to gather here. Bishop Farron, continue to prepare for the summoning ceremony. If the demon army is too strong, I am afraid that the angels will need to come down. The Queen of the New Moon quickly arranged. The battle of the high-level powerhouses spreads too far, and if the devil invades the city, so many people gather here, they will definitely be targeted. A powerful demon with a powerful attack skill fell, and I don't know how many people will die. Although there is also a magic circle here, the devil may not be able to attack, but this risk, the Queen of the New Moon cannot take it. Demon invasion. Everyone quickly evacuate, too many gatherings will be targeted by demons. Soon, a large number of magicians used amplification magic to spread the news of the demon invasion. My God, the devil has invaded, go home, there are too many people here. 35. In the square, the crowd began to riot. It's actually a demon invasion. No wonder the king is so messy, what should we do? Stay here first, can't go now, let's take a look at the situation. 11. In the protagonist group, the protagonists in it quickly reached an agreement. Although some protagonists have decided to leave the capital, the risk of leaving now is too great. They have already seen the demonic energy soaring to the sky, and there are demons everywhere. Are they going out to die? When many people were evacuating, these protagonists leaned towards the cathedral one by one. On the other side, several villains stared at them, and they were still waiting for the opportunity to make a move. At this time, outside the capital, the demon army had already rushed over from several directions. Holy Cross. 39. A squeak sounded, and an incomparably bright sword light appeared, sweeping away a large area of a euro the demons that were rushing in front of them. Angel. A powerful demon narrowly avoided her attack. You won't be complacent for long, the demon sneered. At the same time, in the royal capital, below a mansion, in an underground space completely blocked by a magic circle, hundreds of people dressed in red, holding hands, stood on a blood-colored six-pointed star array, chanting extremely strange-sounding words. If you look closely, their wrists have already been cut. The reason why the six-pointed star formation was blood-colored was because it was dyed red by their blood. Finally, their blood lit up the entire hexagram. These hundreds of people are already extremely weak, but their faces have extreme fanaticism. They are the dead men trained by several Duke-level villains. After the six-pointed star array lit up, the blood-colored light illuminated the entire underground space in an incomparably eerie way. Immediately afterwards, these hundreds of people exhausted their last strength, biting off their tongues and falling down. The blood-colored rays of light in the six-pointed star array suddenly made a big splash. Haha, the passage is open. In the abyss, in front of the long-nailed demon god, an evil magic circle has also lit up. This guy is already wearing pitch black armor and holding a weird weapon. A child will be completely frightened at a glance. He laughed loudly and slammed into it. Behind him, densely packed demons also roared and rushed in with him. Boom. 35 Almost instantly, the long-nailed demon god appeared in that underground space. His body had just gone out of a head, and everything there was shattered. All the corpses, all of them, were all torn apart. Between the collision of his demonic breath and the laws of the world of gods, no matter can be complete. That's why the evil hexagram itself that lights up still exists. Immediately afterwards, the entire body of the long-nailed demon god rushed out. Boom. This time, the huge mansion seemed to have been bombarded by a nuclear bomb and shattered instantly. Ha ha ha. The huge demon body of the long-nailed demon god rushed out from there, and loud laughter resounded throughout the capital. The devil. The angels outside the capital felt the powerful aura, and when they looked back, they saw the long-nailed demon god with a height of 100 meters. His face changed suddenly. Little angel, isn't this surprise exciting enough? In front of the angel, the powerful demon who was almost killed by her smiled. How could the demon god come directly to the capital? At this time, the Holy See headquarters, Bishop Farron's expression also changed greatly. The devil's aura was so powerful that as soon as the other party appeared in the capital, everyone in the capital felt a suffocating feeling. Some people who accidentally looked up and saw the long-nailed demon god were almost scared stupid. The consequences of looking directly at God are not ordinary seriousness. The Queen of the Crescent Moon had already prayed, and she was not panicking. On the opposite side, the long-nailed demon god has already rushed over. The place where he descended was still more than 10 kilometers away from the headquarters of the Holy See. But for him, this distance was almost in the blink of an eye. This guy rushed over directly, and the magic circles on the road were useless to him. He has entered the land of no one and killed the headquarters of the Holy See. Prepare to catch the most devout believers of the new moon goddess here. The souls of these believers, whose souls are purer than ordinary people because of their piety, are the best nourishment for him. Behind him, there are also a large number of demons. These demons didn't make trouble in the capital, and they followed them to the headquarters of the Holy See. Pray quickly and open the passage for the goddess. 35. In the temple, a large number of temple maids are holding a summoning ceremony. It's just that the new moon goddess has just given a wide range of blessings, and before that, an angel has been sent down in advance. It would take time for another angel to come down, or for her to come down in person. It's not too long, but it's not too late. F***ck, the demon gods have come out. If this can't be stopped, we're all going to die here. 35. Han Yu. You are sure that everything will be fine at the Holy See headquarters? Why do I feel that we are going to be blamed? All the protagonists at the headquarters of the Holy See have also panicked. They never imagined that a demon god would appear. Demon god. Whenever the devil descends on the world of gods, even if he is repelled, the loss every time is incomparable. If you don't pay attention, if you are affected by the battle, they will finish playing. At this time, they could not have imagined that this demon god was created by several silver-level villains to deal with them. These protagonists only had time to send a chat message with their minds, and the long-spiked demon god was already approaching. That huge body, in the process of rushing over, actually became a little bigger. This is because he is fighting against the laws of the world of gods. Otherwise, the divine body in his complete state is more than this size at all. Seeing that the long-nailed demon god was killed, the hidden demigod in the sky finally shot. This demigod is obviously a magic god, and when the wand in his hand moves, he sends out a terrifying attack. Demigods, you also want to block me. The long-nailed demon god slammed into the attack and shattered the attack. But at this time, a sword light full of sacred aura slashed over. That sword light is like a crescent moon. Divine skill, crescent slash. The angel's coquettish shout sounded immediately. This sword light finally made the long-nailed demon god cheer up, and with a sharp wave of the weapon in his hand, the angel's attack was shattered. After successively resolving the attacks of the two major demigods, the long-nailed demon god was closer to the headquarters of the Holy See. When he blocked the attack of the angel and another demigod, his other hand had already grabbed it violently. That hand kept getting bigger and bigger, and when it was grabbed, the whole square was darkened. If this falls, I don't know how many people will die. God. There was chaos in the square. Seeing that hand was about to fall, finally, Queen New Moon moved. There was also a demigod aura on her body. The hands had already formed the seal, and a new moon suddenly met the hand. Scar of the New Moon. In the coquettish voice of the Queen of the New Moon, bright moon marks rushed towards the giant hand. At the same time, the angel and another demigod also stepped up their attacks, putting pressure on the spike demon god. With the joint efforts of 3 demigod-level combat powers, that giant hand was finally completely smashed by the Moonscar attack by the Queen of the New Moon. "Hey, you can't stop me!" The long-nailed demon god roared loudly, and the weapon in his hand danced wildly, hitting the square again with another terrifying blow. At the same time, the demons behind him have also rushed into the square frantically. "Stop them!" Bishop Farron greeted him with the Temple Knights and a large number of magicians. Shield of the New Moon. The Queen of the Crescent Moon raised a huge shield, like a crescent moon, to block the attack of the long-nailed demon god. The angel and another demigod were still attacking, but the long-nailed demon god was really too sturdy. He was ready to take down the believers in the square under the attack of the two. Boom! The shield of the crescent moon was instantly shattered by the attack of the long-nailed demon god. The face of the Queen of the New Moon changed greatly. At this moment, in the sky, an obvious beam of light fell violently, repelling the attack of the long-nailed demon god. That is the goddess of the new moon, with the help of the attack from the temple. A huge temple is naturally not a decoration. This temple plays a role in collecting beliefs, and also stores a lot of energy. At critical moments, it can play a role. After being blocked twice, but still blocked by several demigods, the long-nailed demon god was furious. "Death to me!" The spike demon god made an even more terrifying attack. At the same time, the square was already in chaos, and all the people were fleeing to the church. A large number of demons have rushed into the square and fought fiercely with the people of the Holy See. It can also be seen that in the sky, several sanctuaries continue to attack, intercepting some powerful demons. In this huge square, the battlefield has long been cut. The demonic energy that permeated everywhere reduced the visibility of the surrounding area. In order to protect the people below, the sanctuary has been continuously expanding, and the area is constantly being cut, as if there are many small worlds. It's a complete mess, so to speak. On the outskirts of the capital, millions of demons are also attacking. These demons, in fact, act as a restraint and attract attention. Of course, if the war goes well, the long-nailed demon god doesn't mind raising the entire New Moon King to the ground, so as to make his reputation even louder in the world of gods. It has become a nightmare for many people. For him, this is a very fulfilling thing. "Mom. This devil is too sturdy, Chu Wu. Don't be separated from us. If you encounter a powerful devil, the legendary soul in your ring will come in handy." At this time, more than a dozen protagonists who gathered together were trembling and heading towards the cathedral. This battlefield is too chaotic. They walked and walked, not knowing where they were going. Sanctuary. The reason why it is sanctuary is because they have mastered the power of the realm. After the different fields are opened, an area can be cut. You look, it seems normal there, but when you step into a whole new place. That is the realm of the sanctuary. There are still several sanctuaries where 947 sits in the capital. Except for one on the periphery of these sanctuaries, all the others have come to this square. The continuous expansion of their fields also makes this battlefield more fragmented. As for the legendary combat power, there are quite a few here. The number of these more than 10 protagonists is 2 more than at the beginning. The 2 protagonists gathered with them for fear of being killed in the melee after seeing the demon attack. They had thought they could get to the cathedral soon. However, as soon as the demon god is killed, the demigod level and the sanctuary level battle together, and they are barbecue. The battlefield was completely cut, and they didn't even know where the cathedral was now. From time to time, a demon flew across the sky, and then an attack shot down the demon. They also don't know where those attacks came from. The collision and connection of the fields of multiple sanctuaries also made this battlefield even more broken. In addition, some magic circles on the square are also fully opened, which further cuts the entire square even smaller. In fact, this is the best protection for the people, and it is also conducive to the fight against demons. But for more than a dozen protagonists, it's not so good. They soon found out. They got lost. These more than 10 protagonists have pinned their hopes on a protagonist named Chu Wu at this time. Because this Chu Wu is the protagonist of the ring flow, and has a bronze ring. Inside the bronze ring, there is a legendary soul. Chu Wu lived up to expectations and directly summoned the legendary soul in his ring. Once summoned, the legendary soul also lived up to its expectations and quickly found a way. Go this way. Toto Chu Wu led more than a dozen protagonists in one direction. There are demons in the sky. Don't be afraid, we are too weak now. These demons don't look down on us. 35. F***ck. I must grow up. This feeling of being weak is so uncomfortable. These protagonists are depressed, trembling, and very aggrieved. They are simply too weak before the power of God. Not to mention gods, just those demons flying around. Any one of them will be enough for them to drink a pot. However, they are not discouraged. After all, they have fought chicken blood before. After seeing the power of the demon god, they are more eager to grow up. It should be here soon. Chu Wudao. The other protagonists saw hope. At this moment, suddenly, accident regeneration. The scene in front of them suddenly changed. Going into another field, F***k. 35. A protagonist cursed. This is clearly into the field. 12 people, it's not bad, you are so self-consciously gathered together, it is too cooperative. At this time, a voice sounded. When these protagonists saw it, they saw that a villain wearing a fine noble robe appeared in front of them. Their faces changed suddenly. This villain, many of them know, is the silver-level villain in the royal capital, the heir of a duke family, Miles. Myers, this is the headquarters of the Holy See. Can you bear the consequences of doing it here? The 12 protagonists gathered together and looked at Miles. They haven't been too flustered yet, because this is the headquarters of the Holy See, it is very close to the cathedral. Miles may not dare to do it here. In the past, some of their protagonists have also met with Miles. But Miles remained very restrained and did not take risks. The Holy See headquarters? There was a sneer at the corner of Miles' mouth. This battlefield is so chaotic, I don't know how many people will die, just a few insignificant characters. Who do you think will care about you? Miles said lightly. Hearing Miles' words, the 12 protagonists finally realized their current situation. This is indeed the headquarters of the Holy See. But now this battlefield is so chaotic, the dead are normal. Don't talk about them, I'm afraid. The nobles with higher status and the like will die in vain once they are accidentally affected and die. No one is going to investigate anything at all. After all, even the demon god appeared. I'm afraid, even if a few dukes die, or die in a sanctuary, or even a demigod, no one will find it strange. That is the devil. Even if the opponent's strength is suppressed by the laws of the world of gods, it is easy to exert the combat power of false gods. The new moon kingdom does not have the power of false gods. A demigod can still stay in the continent of the gods. Pseudo-gods are already infinitely close to gods. Once they become pseudo-gods, there is no way they can stay in the continent of gods for too long. When a demon god descends, unless there is a holy son or a holy girl, it can carry the power of a pseudo-god. Otherwise, it is often necessary for the gods themselves to descend, or to descend upon a large number of angels with demigod-level combat power, in order to be able to repel them. But it will take some time to come, especially after the new moon goddess has just completed the blessing ceremony. Now, the long-nailed demon gods fight is a time lag. After thinking about this, the expressions of the 12 protagonists changed. They guessed and guessed, but they never expected that the situation would develop like this. I didn't expect that Miles would take this opportunity to kill them directly. Although they are the protagonists, their status in the new moon kingdom is really not high, and if they were killed in such chaos, they were also killed. On the opposite side, Miles looked at the 12 protagonists with a sense of accomplishment in his heart. In fact, he really wanted to tell these protagonists that this time, he made the big money in the capital. Seeing the entire new Moon King city under his control, it fell into chaos. All the situations are developing in his favor. Miles has the feeling of a chess player, all people are his pawns. What about the Holy See? What about the demon god, and what about these protagonists with gold finger? It's not that he was toyed with the palm of his hand. This feeling of using the world as a chess piece makes him intoxicated. Looking at these flustered protagonists, Miles couldn't help it. Because, if he told all this to the 12 protagonists, he would see the astonished expressions and open mouths of these protagonists. His sense of accomplishment will be unprecedentedly satisfied. However, although that would make him very happy, the risk was still too great. So, in the end, Miles wasn't ready to speak. Are you so sure you can kill us? In front of the 12 protagonists, the protagonist with a bronze ring, Chu Wu, said solemnly. In the past 10 days, the legendary soul in his bronze ring has also become stronger. Legendary power that can be maintained for a short period of time. This is also his greatest strength. That's right, you are in the field of a sanctuary, when this sanctuary does not exist. A protagonist who has just arrived in the capital said. What a fool. Miles laughed. Then why do you think about it? I will do it in the field of this sanctuary. Miles rode. The faces of the 12 protagonists changed again. No, Miles' family is the sanctuary family, so, he directly dispatched this sanctuary to kill us, it's over. A protagonist said desperately in the group. Some of the other protagonists who were not here were confused and asked what happened in the group. But these protagonists have no time to reply to them. At this moment, the situation has changed again. Hundreds of demons suddenly rushed into this field. Then, a figure chased after him. As soon as he came in, the field was completely closed. The figure's hand moved, and the hundreds of demons were instantly shattered. Sanctuary, the protagonist named Chu Wu changed his face. The figure who came in was a sanctuary. Moreover, the other party was very careful and did not come in the first time, but deliberately let in hundreds of demons. He followed up, so that people outside would not be suspicious. No wonder Miles didn't do it the first time, he is procrastinating. Chu Wu suddenly regretted it very much, because he felt that if he fought with the legendary soul before, he might be able to kill Miles. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in the world. Do you regret not killing me just now? Opposite, Miles seems to be a wise man who penetrates the heart, and can easily see through Chu Wu's mind. This made Chu Wu feel even more frustrated. On the opposite side, that sanctuary didn't seem to be ready to talk nonsense at all. After killing a few hundred demons, the sanctuary took action. Senior, save me. Chu Wu can only rely on the legendary soul. As his gold finger, that legendary soul did not hesitate to face the sanctuary. However, just as his attack was launched, it was easily shattered by the sanctuary, and then all the power was locked and unable to move. The gap between the legend and the sanctuary is too great. In particular, this is the realm of this sanctuary. In the realm, this sanctuary, facing the non-sanctuary, is a godlike existence. Seeing that the legendary soul was controlled, all the protagonists were desperate. Fight him. A protagonist actually has a whole card, but it is limited by the gold finger level, and the use of this whole card is very expensive. But now, he is ready to fight with each other desperately. The sanctuary shot again, ready to stun the 12 protagonists, and then hand them over to Miles and the other silver level villains to kill. But at this time, he noticed something and looked sharply in one direction. There, a figure appeared. Clap clap, applause sounded. The sound of applause came so suddenly that all the protagonists and Miles couldn't help but look there. The 12 protagonists were suddenly stunned. Because, suddenly appearing in the realm of this sanctuary is Sumo. The Earl of the Black Stone Land in their eyes. Wonderful. 35 Sumo's voice sounded. The Earl of the Black Stone Land. Miles also didn't expect Sumo to appear here. Seeing Sumo's astonishment, he didn't even think about how Sumo could break into a completely closed field. However, someone thought about it. How did you get in? The sanctuary of the Miles family spoke up. This is an old man of considerable age, an uncle of Miles. The younger brother of the old Duke of the Miles family. His realm has been completely closed. When completely closed, here is a small independent world. There is no way to get in unless it is broken with force. However, now Sumo has come in. Not only came in, but also quietly came in. Such a Sumo, although his aura is not strong, made this sanctuary raise 12 points of vigilance. It can be said that it is like an enemy. Guess. Sumo faced the sanctuary with a friendly smile. Where's the Earl of the Black Stone Land? I just got separated. This battlefield is too chaotic, and our people have been scattered a lot. It may be in which field or magic circle. Find him quickly. If something happens to the Count, how can we tell the Queen? 3. In the square, a group of knights was also anxiously turning around. Originally, Queen Crescent asked Sumo to follow her, but because she was worried about being affected by the remnants of the battle, Queen Crescent asked that team of knights to escort Sumo to church. But who knows, after a few steps, Sumo disappeared. This makes them anxious. This team of knights could only find it on this chaotic battlefield. The silver level ring, in his hand, is definitely a silver level ring. When the team of knights found them in circles, the protagonist Chu Wu's exclamation sounded in the area of a euro the sanctuary. Because, just now, Sumo took out a ring and summoned a soul from it. The strength of this soul has already reached the sanctuary. Moreover, the strength has recovered quite well, and it can actually block the sanctuary of the Miles family. Seeing that Sumo has such a powerful ring in his hand, Chu Wu, who is also a ring with gold finger, is instantly determined. Sumo's hand is a silver grade ring. a villain actually has a silver level ring. This discovery surprised the 12 protagonists. The villain's gold finger can only be taken from the protagonist. The possibility of killing a silver level protagonist directly from the beginning is too low. Especially the ring flow. Inside the ring, there is a sanctuary soul. Therefore, the ring that Sumo captured can only be bronze at the beginning. In other words, Sumo, a silver level ring, can be upgraded. My god, he actually has a silver level ring. How many protagonists does this have to kill? 35. It's over. This time it's really over. Our guess has come true, he really killed the silver level. Ah. Why is an Earl so perverted? In the group of protagonists, the news that the 12 protagonists were hysterical sounded. What happened? What happened to you? Are you talking about the Earl of Moshi Land? Where are you? 99. Some of the other protagonists who were not here were also at a loss and asked crazy questions. But no one replied to them. These 12 protagonists are only venting their emotions, and they are not distracted to read the news in the group. On the opposite side, Miles' face also sank. Seeing the ring in Sumo's hand, he guessed it too. We all underestimate you, 9 Miles said solemnly. I didn't expect that you actually have a silver ring. If I guess correctly, the Phantom who completed the first kill is you, right? Miles rode. Sumo glanced at Lois, who was fighting against Sanctuary, and said lightly, that's right. Miles' eyes showed a hint of appreciation. I haven't seen an opponent like you for a long time. Before crossing the road, I was sitting on a top 500 listed company. I originally thought that I would not be able to meet after crossing. Man, you are an exception. 99. Having said that, he paused for a while and said again, let's join forces, your sanctuary soul is dying. The soul is the soul after all, you can't beat me. Come on. Join hands with me, I can eliminate all the other villains. Let's become the strongest villain together, and divide the world. How? After speaking, Miles looked at Sumo calmly. Sumo did not answer his question. Although Lois' strength has recovered a little in the past few days, she really can't beat the sanctuary of the Miles family. It is only the soul after all. However, Lois has dragged on enough. His eyes swept around, and he easily saw through this field. There are no human beings around this area. On the battlefield, the long-nailed demon god roared again and again. Although he was at an absolute advantage, he couldn't take it down within a minute or two. In a few minutes, the new moon goddess will be able to descend. At that time, the long-nailed demon god had to retreat. This guy also realized this, and was already shouting the succubus demon god. Want to get Sumo out. Long Nail, this stupid big man, failed to give Sumo more surprises after all. The goddess of the new moon stored more energy in the temple than Sumo expected. It seems that one cannot underestimate any god of the heavenly realm. Even if the other party is a goddess, certainly. Everything is still under Sumo's control. Next, it is the question of how to obtain more divine energy from the new moon goddess. Just a little thing to fix, it's like the dozen or so protagonists, as well as the villain, Miles. The time has come. Later, the goddess of the new moon will not be so generous. That being the case, so let's get started. As soon as Sumo's hand moved, he threw the 2 protagonists out of the space bag. The 2 protagonists were Han Yu and Li Fei from the palace guards. These 2 guys weren't lost, they were captured by Sumo. They didn't fall into a coma. As soon as they appeared, when they saw the other protagonists, they immediately felt that they had found an organization. But when I saw the despair on the faces of these protagonists, I almost cried again. FCK, it's really been served in one pot. Seeing Sumo's actions, Miles' eyes showed a hint of appreciation. Apparently, he thought that Sumo threw out these 2 leads in order to work with him. The person who knows the current affairs is Junji, cooperate with me, you will not regret it. Miles said lightly. Sumo glanced at him calmly, and a strange light flashed in his eyes. Then, his obtained breath began to soar wildly. The succubus bloodline began to be released with full force. In a very short period of time, the succubus bloodline has been completely released. Boom. The aura on his body was madly climbing. This explosive breath is stirring in this field. If it wasn't for Sumo's deliberate control, this field would be shattered in an instant. Opposite Sumo, Miles' face changed. Behind Sumo, more than a dozen protagonists felt the terrifying breath of Sumo's body, and the complexion also changed. That breath was terrible. Terrifying enough. Their minds were completely deterred. Even more frightening is These dozen or so protagonists who have just felt the breath of the long-nailed demon god have an inexplicable feeling. The aura on Sumo's body right now is not weak at all compared to the aura of the spiked demon god. After realizing this, these dozen or so protagonists have completely opened their mouths even though they haven't thought of the key point yet. The devil. Opposite, the face of the Myers family's sanctuary changed dramatically. Because of the surprise he received, his voice was completely lost. The body trembled violently. His face turned pale in an instant. Opposite him, Lois, who had been beaten to the point of being unbearable by him, turned around and saw that as the object of her protection, her appearance had actually changed. A junior in the original impression has suddenly become a demon-level existence. Such a terrible ultimate boss. Her face was also full of surprise and puzzlement. He is the devil. The words of the Myers family sanctuary were like a bolt of lightning, splitting the brain of a protagonist. Let him finally realize this extremely terrifying point. Subconsciously, it screamed. Even the sound has changed, as if the volume has been raised dozens of times at once.